Stillman and Company, 102.5, 106.3 The Game, streaming live on Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook Live. We are live today from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game National Studios, Bridgestone Arena, Preds and Sharks. Today, right here, 7 o'clock, 102.5 The Game. We are presented by the Southern Bank of Tennessee. And Ian is here today. Hello, Ian.
What up, what up?
Barry Trotz will be with us at 5 o'clock today on the program, which Barry Trotz is usually with us at 5 o'clock on the program on Tuesdays. So Barry will be here. He will come and join us, and you will be able to hear Barry's voice, and you will be able to see Barry's face if you're looking at the live stream, because Barry Trotz has nothing to hide. And that's where we're starting today. And in fact, Ian, back me up on this, but I wasn't planning today to start the show bitching about Chad Brinker. I was planning to talk quarterbacks today on the program.
Yes, that is correct.
A lot of quarterback talk. Now, Trevor will be with us in 30 minutes because Trevor's got a bunch of TV stuff with the national title game. But we were going to talk quarterbacks, and we were going to talk about the free agent market. We were going to talk about the draft. We were going to all kinds of stuff. And then the Tennessee Titans sent out a media release talking about Mike Borgonzi's introduction, which is tomorrow at 11 o'clock. You can hear it right here on 102.5 The Game. The email says, Titans media availabilities tomorrow, Brinker and Borgonzi. At 10 o'clock, Titans president of football operations, Chad Brinker, will be meeting with the media. See details below. 11 a.m. Central Time, Titans General Manager Mike Borgonzi will have his introductory press conference, which will all be at Ascension St. Thomas Sports Park. But there's an asterisk next to Chad Brinker's name, which I was a little surprised by. And the asterisk says, quote, this will be for quote only session. What? No video or audio for air/posting. We will provide a transcript. Live tweeting is allowed. Please gather in the media workroom, and we will take the group up to the space for the interview. So again, Chad Brinker is going to be meeting with the media at 10 o'clock tomorrow morning, but no audio, no video. Barry Trotz, who does run the Predators, and there is zero ambiguity when it comes to who's in charge and what the chain of command, Barry Trotz will be here at 5 o'clock. If you want to come up, the doors, Ian, I believe, what time do the doors to the arena open up? I want to say they open up at 5:30 maybe.
That sounds right.
So I don't think you can come see Barry while he's here. But again, like Barry Trotz will be here in the flesh. And if you guys see him walking around, there's nothing else. You can hear him on the program. But with Chad Brinker, there is to be no audio and there is to be no video of his media availability tomorrow. And this tracks with how they handled the Rand Carthon firing, which is Rand Carthon got fired and they talked to Jim Wyatt and they talked to TD and they talked to Paul Kaharski and they talked to the Tennessean. But there was no press conference. And there was no audio for us to play, and there was no video, and there was... So I have to ask this question. What are you hiding? What is Chad Brinker hiding? Because this is not how well-run organizations operate. And I'm going to tell you where this comes from. This comes from Chad Brinker. Because I've been covering the Tennessee Titans now. This will be my 10th football season covering the Titans. And the Titans have never once, in my experience, held an official on-the-record availability that they said, no cameras, no video, no audio. Not with Rustin Webster, not with Steve Underwood, not with John Robinson, not with Mike Vrabel, not with Mike Malarkey, not with Rand Carthon. This is the first time I have ever heard of 4 quotes only, no audio or video allowed. with a little caveat that Vrabel would do some just chats with the local media after his press conference was over for like a 6-month period. But again, what is Chad Brinker afraid of? And I can tell you what I think it is. You guys are going to say, Jared Stillman's making it about himself. But again, maybe it has nothing to do with me. I don't know. Ian, I got a feeling that the reason why there's no audio or video of Brinker talking aloud is because we've run like the same 6 cuts over and over again for about a year.
Well, he says such silly stuff.
I mean, again, yes. Like that whole
Even
Titan podcast.
Yeah, even the quotes in this hiring of Borgonzi. I was reading or hearing what Joe and Robbie were saying about how they literally had every scenario figured out. Like, just things like that. Like, no, that's not possible. Just silly things. So,
again, I do think this is about me. I do think this is about the fact that we ran the cut about the AI cancer curing model from the podcast 1,000 times. That over the last 3 weeks, because again, no press conference after they fired the general manager, no press conference for 3 weeks. They fired Rand 3 weeks ago or 2 weeks ago, or whatever it was, no press conferences. But I do think this is about me. I think this is about us running the cuts of him talking about, boy, Rand and I, we're just so aligned. We're like long lost brothers. I do think this is about the fact that we love playing that servicing the head coach cut from when he did the preseason interview on TV. And I think the Titans are smart enough to realize that if they do an interview somewhere, I'm going to find it. And just like Rand's Sirius XM interview where he said they checked every box and we played that over and over and over and over again, I'm sure they don't like it. But it's the problem. You have people running your organization who say such stupid things. And I will tell you, in grown-up land, which is where I operate, I think it's about having such stupid people that do such stupid things and say such stupid stuff representing your organization. And that also happens to be why you're the worst team in the NFL. There's no denying that you are the worst team right now in the NFL. You are picking first. I do love this whole setup the Titans have, this innovative setup, and Brian Callahan did a sit down with A to Z Sports about how great this new collaborative and trying to think innovative way that they're going to do this, and we're bringing this to the NFL. And Albert Breer wrote about it at Sports Illustrated about other teams don't do this yet, but this is the new wave. And I said, nobody goes out of their way to emulate the worst team. People want to be like the Bill Belichick Patriots. They want to be like the guy you just hired, the Chiefs. Nobody wants to be like the worst team. But again, this is why you are where you are. Because your owner thought she had all the answers when she fired the general manager, when they were in first place and they were winning 61% of their games, and they had been to the division, they had won the division 2 years in a row, and they had been to the playoffs 3 years in a row, and she thought this isn't good enough. She fired him, and then it took her 4 days to do an interview. At least she did one on camera. We played the audio. Chad Brinker can't even do that. So again, while this may not be about me, but I think it is about me. And about the fact that if Brinker says something stupid, we would play the cut over and over and over and over again, the way that we played the stupid cuts from Brinker and Rand over the last 2 years, over and over and over again. But again, is this really about the mean radio guy? Or is this really about the fact that the people that are running your organization say such stupid things on such a consistent basis? And if you are too afraid of the mean radio guy on 102.5 The Game, if he is the problem, how am I supposed to believe that you can handle the other 31 teams in the NFL if you're too worried about me and playing cuts over and over and over and over again? And let me say this. Let me be abundantly clear. I will be there tomorrow at 10 o'clock for this Chad Brinker, you can't see it, you can't hear it press conference. It's almost like a pay-per-view title fight. Maybe they'll allow us to show some still shots or something. I don't know. But it is embarrassing that the team has promoted this guy. They actually promoted him last year. And if you listen to Diana Rossini, Charles Robinson, they say Chad Brinker was running the Titans last year. You know, when they finished with the worst record in the NFL. But they promoted this guy last year. This year, they've said he's the guy with final say. He's the guy in charge. He's the guy. Trust us. Trust him. And he's too much of a coward to go on video and audio. That's who's running your organization. A coward. Because that's what this is. They're afraid of the mean old radio guy that's going to play the cuts over and over and over again. So what they do is they don't allow us to have the cuts because they're scared. And again, if you're worried about me, how are you going to handle the Indianapolis Colts? If you're worried about me, how are you going to handle the Houston Texans? If you're worried about me, how are you going to build a football team that's good enough to go on the road to Arrowhead Stadium in an AFC title game and compete with Kansas City? Because Mike Vrabel was a lot of things when he was the coach, and I'm sure at times he really didn't like me. But I can promise you Mike Vrabel wasn't afraid of me. I can promise you John Robinson and Derrick Henry, those guys weren't afraid of anything they say can and will be using against them in the court of public opinion. But that's back when you used to win. Now, where you like to lose, you're afraid of the mean old radio guy on 1025. 615-737-1025. What a freaking joke. Chad Brinker's holding a media availability. No quotes. No audio. Excuse me, you can get the quotes. They'll send out the transcribed edition. No audio, no video. What is it, like a bank robbery? Or is it a press conference? 615-737-1025 is our phone number. We'll get some reaction on that. Again, Trevor at 230 plus. The reason Chad Brinker is not doing the availability for me is pretty obvious, which is probably my favorite. My favorite part about it. We'll get to it next. Stillman & Company, 105 the game.
So maybe this is just me worrying about this, wondering about this. But if we're looking to hear what Chad Brinker has to say, and I think we all want to hear what he has to say, I'm not sure this was the right way to go about it.
In that regard, we should be able to hear it unfiltered. We should be able to hear it live and as it's going on. You're asking, and again, I'm gonna go back to this, and it has nothing to do with anything on the football field. You're asking all these people to buy those extremely expensive seats in that new stadium, but you want to allow them to sort of hear what your whoever he is, I don't know what he is, GM, president of the president, supreme ruler of all football and the president. I don't know what he is, but you want to allow your fan base, who you're asking for all this money, you don't allow him to hear it as it's actually going. That doesn't sit well with me.
That was D. Mace earlier today. Again, Chad Brinker meeting with the media tomorrow at 10 o'clock. Chad Brinker, though, you will not be able to see it. You will not be able to hear it. They will transcribe the quotes themselves, and then they will send it out. Boy, I'm sure if he says something stupid, it'll make the official Titans transcription. I mean, it's just ridiculous. So here's what I think this is about. And again, maybe I'm wrong about this. I don't know. I talked to somebody else in the media today, and I was like, I think this is about me. And they said that they talked to one of their coworkers, and they said, yeah, this is about Jared playing the cuts over and over and over and over again. So again, because of that, I think we should play some of the cuts. So all throughout the day, we're going to play some of the stupidest Chad Brinker cuts that have been out there. And let's start right off the top. Give me a Chad Brinker dummy cut that we've played 1,000 times. That is why Chad Brinker does not want us taking the audio from his availability tomorrow, which should be a day about Mike Borgonzi and what that Mike Borgonzi is actually going to do and why Mike Borgonzi and not Rand Carthon. And instead, now it's become, what is Chad Brinker hiding that he has to lawyer up before he does a 10 a.m. media availability? So give me a Brinker cut, Ian.
From assistant general manager to president of football operations seems to me like a pretty nice jump here from year one to year two. What does your new job entail?
Yeah, it is. It's a great opportunity for me. You know, I look at my role as just I'm here to help bring our entire football staff together and make sure they have everything they need to succeed in their respected roles. And so I'm involved in a lot of things. You know, my background is as an evaluator, a scout, worked on the salary cap. So I still help Rand Carthon and Brian Callahan in those areas. But my day-to-day responsibilities deals with cap management, data analytics, involved in football information systems, communications, just everything you could think of when it comes to the football operations.
Oh, just everything. That's my job. My job is to service the head coach. All right, let's get to your phones. Phone line driven by WilsonGottieHunter.com. We got Trevor coming up. Mo is going to kick us off today here on the program. Mo, go ahead. Mo. Oh, Mo, I was hoping you would actually be interested. All right, Dylan says, reason for the Chad Brinker interview setup. Number one, they don't want us to see the teleprompter he's reading from. Number two, if they slip up by saying something, they can then bribe media members not to repeat it. Three, Brinker doesn't want to feel the gaze of thousands of Titans fans piercing him through the camera lens. Four, Brinker doesn't like looking 10 pounds heavier on camera. I mean, Brinker didn't have any hard time last year going up in the booth for the preseason game to get up there and tell you about how he likes to service the head coach. Again, my guess is Brinker sat down with Mike Keith and did that podcast last year in which he said a whole bunch of nothing. Just a whole bunch of nothing. And he didn't think anybody would listen to that and think, God, this sounds like a snake oil salesman. But we did. And then we played the cuts over and over and over again. Because that's what we do. When you say stupid things and you expect people to look at you as if you have the answers, then you get called out. And instead of meeting this head on, Chad Brinker's doing the opposite. He's pulling back. Which again, we talked about, hey, is the team soft? No, the team's not soft. How dare you? Is the front office? Ben says, does Chad Brinker have a medical condition or something that prevents normal press coverage? Another texter says, the only reason to not have recordings is because you don't want an inarguable record of what happened. If you don't have recordings or video, you can gaslight and say something was taken out of context and inject doubt into how things are being depicted. Ding, 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 ding. What would you rather have if you were a prosecuting attorney and you were working a case? Would you rather have audio and video of the person perpetrating the crime? Or would you rather have a police officer tell you what they saw? And again, police officers telling you what they see is very credible, but it's not the same as having audio and video of what happened. And Chad Brinker doesn't want audio and video of what he's about to say tomorrow to be out there. Because again, as the texter said, they can always say, oh no, this was taken out of context. You don't understand. That's what they're going to do. I mean, they already did that this year. Rand said the ball didn't bounce their way, and people on Rand's side defended it by saying, oh, no, that was just a figure of speech. No, he was literally talking about the ball. In the quote itself, he referenced the ball and situations in which the way the ball bounced. He did this last year where he talked about the ball bouncing. But again, if it's just in a quote, it's, oh, no, fake news. That's what they're doing. And I think it's disgraceful. And I think it's cowardly. And everything the Titans have tried to say about Chad Brinker, about him not being a con artist, and him not being a snake oil salesman, and him not being a snake and stabbing Rand Carthon in the back, it's hard to believe that when you see that somebody will stoop to this level to not be accountable. One texter says their solution to being incompetent was not to improve the organization, but to stop allowing Jared to play cuts. Joey from Bellevue, Brinker is soft, can't handle tough questions like he backstabbed Rand, and why is he not responsible for last year's failures? One texter says, are you going to the press conference tomorrow? Yes, I am going to the press conference tomorrow. And I plan to ask Chad Brinker tomorrow why he can't do a press conference like a normal football person can do. I mean, I know the answer. I don't know what he's going to say, but I know the answer. The answer is he's scared. He's scared. So the guy that has final say on who should be the number one overall pick in the draft is afraid to talk in front of the camera. What does that tell you about your organization? Like, holy crap. Chris and Dixon says, I hope they allow a sketch artist in the room so we can get live sketch updates via Twitter. This is kind of like the courtrooms that don't allow you in there. But I mean, this is such a joke. Such a joke. One texter says, Brinker doesn't have to speak because Paul Kaharski does it for him. I got to say this. I've seen Paul Kaharski break recently from Chad Brinker. I don't know if they, something went down between them or if Paul got called out and said, hey, I'm going to bow up a little bit here. But I mean, Kaharski's been very consistent in saying that Brinker has positioned himself to receive the maximum amount of power and the least amount of accountability. And this is no different. Chad Brinker is a total joke. And the fact that he can't sit in front of a camera and have again, when you do these press conferences nowadays, this is not 1994 where the press conference is for the press and then they put the quotes out into the newspaper and then the next day on the trolley, you read them. People watch these press conferences live. TV stations carry them. Radio stations carry them. People listen to the press conferences. This is 2025. When a coach, a general manager, an owner, a president, when they speak to the media, they're really speaking to the fans. And Chad Brinker can't do it because he's too scared. He cannot articulate his vision to the fans because he's scared. But they'll have no problem asking you to drop $35,000 on a PSL. And I don't know how Chad's gotten in with Amy. I don't know how he's been the guy inside the facility that's the one eating lunch with her in the cafeteria. I don't know how that's come about. But somehow he's in there like swimwear. And I just got to say, this is utterly embarrassing for the organization. Unbelievable. Trevor Maddich joins us next, 615-737-1025. And I actually wanted to talk quarterbacks today, and I will do that with Trevor. We'll do it next. Stillman & Company, 1025 The Game. Stillman and Company. So I had a coach, this was a college coach, but I had a coach text me yesterday during the national title game about Will Howard, the Ohio State quarterback. And he said, Will Howard will be a good pro. Watch him play. He makes all the throws he can run. He has pocket presence. He's mature. And that coach said he and Jackson Dart at Ole Miss are the two quarterbacks I like in this class. So today I was kind of pulling up Will Howard's set because I was impressed last night by Will Howard. 6'4", 235, 23 years old, checks that box. Kansas State and Ohio State started 50 career games. He averages 8.1 yards per attempt, 83 touchdowns, 35 picks. Clearly, he is a winner with the way that he overcame the adversity from the Michigan game. I do think that the college football playoff was good to Will Howard. But is he an NFL draft prospect? Is he a day 2 pick maybe? Could he work his way into the first round? Trevor Maddich joins us now, presented by Houston Clinic Orthopedics, when experience matters. Trev, let's start on Will Howard. How impressed were you with Will Howard, and do you consider him a legitimate NFL prospect after the way he played in the playoff?
I think Will Howard has a lot going for him. I would not take him in the first round. I consider him a developmental quarterback at the NFL level with a pretty high floor and a ceiling that is undetermined right now. And the reason is that when he's under pressure, he struggles more than he should. And he's not under pressure all that much. The thing is, against Notre Dame, they only pressured him about 8% of his dropbacks in this game. And he started out hot and he stayed hot, because he had plenty of time to throw. But when the pocket's collapsing around him, he tends to drop his eyes to the pass rush and look for a way out rather than continue to go through his progressions. And there are things that you just don't know about him because of the offense that he played in. I mean, when you look at the analytics and statistics of Ohio State's passing attack, about 40% of the receivers that he threw to are graded as wide open receivers, because they are so good at scheming guys open, just like Ole Miss is with Lane Kiffin. And they've got so many good receivers that defenders tend to play off them and give them plenty of space underneath so that they don't give up something over the top. So there's an unknown there as to how consistently he'd be able to fit those balls into tight windows. Now, I will say this, that we hear all the time about the Buckeyes freshman receiver, Jeremiah Smith, and how great he is and all those one-handed catches and things like that. Well, Howard was the one throwing Smith all those balls, and he consistently put the ball in spots where Smith could use physical domination to jump up and grab him. So he's got the ability, Howard does, to have great accuracy. The thing that I just don't know yet from a standpoint of his NFL capabilities are how will he be when the pocket consistently not collapses, but it squeezes around him and forces him to be uncomfortable and to move around in that pocket and then deliver accurate balls. And what will he do when his receivers are consistently NFL open instead of Ohio State open? In other words, NFL open is during the route, you're covered, you're open, you're covered. And that ball needs to be in the air during that first part when you're covered, anticipating the spot in the route based on the coverage where he'll come open for a brief amount of time and the ball needs to arrive in that time. So, I think the process of the All-Star games will be important for Will Howard.
Trevor, on that front, I've talked to people in the NFL, either former general managers, former coaches, current coaches in college. I've talked to a handful of people about Shedeur Sanders and Cam Ward. And not one person will say, oh, they suck. But nobody has said to me, boy, I tell you, they're good. Or, man, I really like them. Or, man, they're special. Or any of that. It's all, usually the consensus I get is, I kind of like Ward more than I like Sanders. I don't know. I don't really. That's kind of the vibe I get. I had one college coach tell me they're really talented. Neither of them ever plays on time. And that coach told me that would drive them crazy. I ask this of you. Are these guys legitimate, elite, high-end draft prospect quarterbacks, or are they the best of a bad group and they're being elevated as such?
I think they're the best of a bad group with the potential of playing exceptionally well if they can do what you just said. which is to say speed up the process. Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders both did a lot of special things in college. Does that mean that they're special from an NFL perspective? Well, let's talk about what you just said about holding the ball too long. They both tend to do that. But on the college level, you can get away with that a lot more than you can in the NFL because of the speed of the pass rushers. And also because of the tight windows that you're throwing into. Cam Ward made a lot of huge plays and engineered a lot of massive comebacks in the second half for his team, Miami, in part because he would hold the ball, move around, make guys miss. Wow, what a great escape that was for that sack. Oh, we just made another guy miss, and then he'll throw the ball down the field, and it'll be great, and it'll be complete. Well, in the NFL, he gets sacked the first time. And so, he's not going to have those opportunities. And what he needs to remember and really learn is that 2nd and 6 is his friend. The punter is his friend. Stay even with the change. You don't have to make a big play all the time. So will he be able to operate that way? And I think when you look at Shedeur Sanders of Colorado, you can basically overlay this, what I'm about to say, on both him and Cam Ward. And that is that when they hold the ball a long time, coverage tends to break down. And are the quarterbacks finding open receivers because they're recognizing coverage and hitting their progressions on time? Or are they finding open receivers because the receivers have an extra long time to run around because they're so good at, escaping college sackers and allowing, more time to get the throw off? So when you look at Shedeur, he has one of the longest times before releasing the ball of anybody that's being considered draftable in this draft, right? Now, part of that is because they didn't have a running game, and he had to scramble around a lot, so that tends to extend your time and things like that. But the question he'll have to answer, and really this will happen also in interviews at the Combine and if he plays in the All-Star games in that portion of it, is what in the world happened in the bowl game against BYU? Because Shedeur played, which was really unusual for a guy that's expected to be a top 5 pick. And his best receiver, Travis Hunter, who won the Heisman Trophy, also played. This wasn't an exhibition bowl game for Colorado. This was a culture-establishing bowl game. They wanted to win against BYU. And BYU threw a lot of different coverages at Shedeur. As a matter of fact, one of their defensive consultants said after the game that in the first half, they only repeated the same coverage and the same look 3 times the entire half. And Shedeur had his lowest output of the season by far against BYU. So the question now becomes, okay, if he's looking at a lot of different looks, which he will see in the NFL, not so much in college, and if he's being pressured to speed up his information processing more than he normally does, and therefore he struggled, is that because he can't do it very well or because he didn't do it in this game? So I don't know the answer to that, but I always come back to this. I come back to RG3. There's a lot to like about RG3. Robert Griffin III won the Heisman Trophy as a quarterback at Baylor, was drafted by the Washington, and he had a great rookie season. Then he started to get hurt and banged up, and it didn't really pan out for him. But the thing about RG3 is that it took him a half a second too long to recognize what was happening. So he would drop, set, look around, and then realize where he might want to throw the ball, and then it's too late. Instead of during the drop, recognizing the coverage, and by the time he gets to the back of his drop, knowing based on the coverage what his progressions are going to be after the snap. And it took him just a beat too long. And that's one of the reasons he got hurt, because then he would have to run when he could have solved more problems with his arm. And these are the things that Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders will have to convince NFL scouts of and coaches, that holding the ball too long in college was just a function of what they needed to do to win games, and that they can process that information at NFL speed after the snap.
Yeah, Trevor Maddich is with us from ESPN, presented by Houston Clinic Orthopedics, when experience matters. And coming up next, what did we make of the draft-eligible players in the championship game and the other options for the Titans outside of quarterback? We'll do that with Trevor next. Stillman & Company, 105 The Game. Stillman and Company, joined by Trevor Maddich, ESPN college football analyst, presented by Houston Clinic Orthopedics, when experience matters. Trevor, in the national championship game last night, I got to say, I got to tip my cap to Notre Dame because I thought Notre Dame played their hearts out last night. I thought Notre Dame played their hearts out all season long, including in the playoff. And I just think Ohio State is the best team money can buy. That's what they told us before the season, and that's what it looked like last night with just grown men at every position. So I asked this question of you, which is, how many players, when you looked at Ohio State, how many of those players out there last night are legitimate NFL players? And how many of those guys should we be thinking about as far as the Titans are concerned? Again, knowing that they have the number 1 pick, but a potential trade back is certainly on the table from what we saw out of Ohio State last night.
There's a whole bunch of them. I mean, Emeka Egbuka at wide receiver gets lost in the spotlight, excuse me, on Jeremiah Smith, but Egbuka is a first-round talent at wide receiver. He's a playmaker at wide receiver. And then, you know, both of the defensive ends are guys that maybe in the second round, maybe third. You're talking about JT Tuimoloau, number 44, and Jack Sawyer coming off the other end. Both of those guys are high-effort guys that have good skills. I don't know that they're first-round guys, but they're guys that can add to the depth and pass rush ability, which is critical. You know, running backs for Ohio State are really solid, but I'm not sure that they are going to be, you know, because of the position, I'm not sure that Washington, or excuse me, Titans are going to want to get guys like that. But these are the kind of guys that they would be looking for. Now, one of them, who will be a first rounder, in my opinion, who did not play is Josh Simmons, their starting left tackle from the beginning of the season. And he got hurt in October against Oregon and missed the rest of the year. But he'll probably still go in the first round, very likely lower than he would have gone ordinarily because people might be a little spooked by his injury. But I think he's going to come back 100%, and the doctors will have to decide that. And then Donovan Jackson, who was their left guard, moved over to left tackle and played wonderfully against Texas, especially. I mean, he gave up no sacks, no pressures. He was spectacular. The left guard, Donovan Jackson, playing left tackle in place of Josh Simmons. So he's a guy with a lot of position versatility. And right now, this Titans offensive line can use guys that can excel as a starter in one spot. They can also use guys that can excel in multiple spots. And I wouldn't be afraid to put Donovan Jackson in at right guard. And I wouldn't play him at left tackle necessarily, but to put him at either guard, right guard in the case of Tennessee, based on what their roster looks like, he would be a guy that if he slips into the second round, I would take as well, because he would be an enormous upgrade to their offensive line.
If you could pluck, knowing what you know of the Titans, if you could pluck any of these high first rounders that we're discussing, whether it's the 2 quarterbacks, Hunter, Carter, whomever, the tackle out of LSU, the tackle out of Texas, whatever. If you could pluck any one player from college and stick them on the Titans, who would it be?
If I could pluck one, it would be Kelvin Banks of Texas. Now, he also was banged up late in the season, but he is rated by a lot of people as the number 1 tackle in the draft. He is a natural left tackle with tremendous skills in space to protect the quarterback. And what that would do is allow them to move J.C. Latham from left tackle back over to his more natural position, in my opinion, right tackle, which they may or may not be wanting to do. But from a standpoint of upgrading the offensive line, having Kelvin Banks plucked from the University of Texas and dropped into the left tackle position, and then Latham over at the other side on the right side going forward, you would all of a sudden have one of the best bookend pairs, young offensive tackles in the NFL to develop. And I think you could have, the next 10 years be solid at tackle, when over the course of the last several years, Jared, the word tackle has come out of your mouth with the combination of fear and loathing every time you said the word. And so I would love to see that happen. It would require really a trade back in the first round in order for them to get Banks. But if they choose to do that, he would be one of the guys that would be considered.
Trevor, along those lines, what do you think would be more beneficial to the Titans in the not just the near term, but kind of the short / long term overall? Drafting Sanders and Ward and committing to develop them, but you're using the first pick on Sanders or Ward, and that's the quarterback, and you go from there. Or using the first pick to either trade back, draft Travis Hunter, draft Kelvin Banks, draft Abdul Carter, draft one of those guys, and using your second round pick to trade for Sam Darnold and giving Sam Darnold a contract. If you were general manager of the Titans and you got hired on Friday, which route would you prefer to go?
I would trade for Sam Darnold if I could give up a second rounder, and that would be a high second rounder, of course. It would be the first pick of the second round, assuming other things don't happen with trades and stuff. But I would do that because now all of a sudden you've got a veteran quarterback who's been developed by other teams in the NFL into a position where this last year he showed that he's a worthy starting NFL quarterback. And it's been a minute since the Titans have had a guy like that. And certainly it feels like it. And that's the way I would play it. Remember that you've got to have outstanding, if not elite, quarterback play in order to push deep into the playoffs and have a chance to win the Super Bowl. Or put it this way, you've got to have your quarterback perform better than the other guy's quarterback. And there's two ways to do that. One is to get a quarterback who's better than the other guy's quarterback. The other one is to degrade the other guy's quarterback's performance to the level of your guy or below. And you do that with pass rush and with cover guys. That's why I thought it was fascinating what the Texans did a couple of years ago when they drafted at the top of the draft C.J. Stroud and then quarterback, and then Will Anderson Jr., maybe the best pass rusher in that draft. So they got upgraded their own quarterback, and they got an upgrade at the position that will degrade the other guy's quarterback in Anderson. And so I think this is the kind of thing that the Titans will be right at doing as long as they don't reach for the wrong guys just because they play the right position. Quarterback position has been a deficit compared to what they faced across the field on the other team for a while now with the Titans. And so if they can find a quarterback that they feel confident in, that can in the draft that'll upgrade their position, okay. But I would much rather see them upgrade the team around a guy like a Sam Darnold if I can get him without having to do too much and give up too much capital.
Trevor Matich, as always, presented by Houston Clinic Orthopedics, when experience matters. Trevor joining us earlier today with a bunch of college football hits due to the national title game last night. Trevor, we look forward to seeing you on TV. Great stuff. We'll talk soon.
Appreciate it. Thanks, man.
Yep. So again, Chad Brinker tomorrow will have a media availability, but you will not see it. You will not hear it because recordings, audio, and video are banned by the Titans. Borgonzi will meet with the media at 11 o'clock tomorrow. And I got to ask, if this is necessary for Chad Brinker to meet with the media, where he is faceless and voiceless and you just see his quotes in the paper, if this is the case, I've got to ask, why is he qualified to lead this team out of the gutter? We'll get to that next. Stillman & Company, 102.5 The Game. Stillman and Company, 1025, 1063, the game streaming live on Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook Live. We are live from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, Bridgestone Arena, Preds and Sharks tonight at 7 o'clock. And we are presented by the Southern Bank of Tennessee. Tomorrow, Mike Borgonzi will be introduced as the Tennessee Titans' new general manager. That'll be at 11 o'clock. That'll be a real press conference. Video will be out there. Audio will be out there. You can hear it right here live in its entirety on 1025 The Game. At 10 o'clock, Mike Borgonzi's boss, who the team CEO, Berg Nihill, said has full authority over all football matters, Chad Brinker, will be meeting with the media. You will not be able to hear that at 10 a.m. You will not be able to see that because as the Titans release that came out today announcing the introduction of Borgonzi and the Chad Brinker press conference, the media availabilities, as the Titans noted, quote, with Brinker, this will be for a quote only session. No video or audio for air/posting. We will provide a transcript. Live tweeting is allowed. So, again, I mean, it's almost like a comedy show where they don't want video getting out to social media because with the comedy show, they're going to take their act from Nashville to Phoenix to St. Louis to Chicago to Milwaukee, wherever. That makes sense. Unfortunately, the reason the Titans have become a comedy show is because of bullcrap exactly like this, where the president of football operations, who was promoted into that role, for what reason, I don't know, is giving a media availability, but we don't want it on camera. We don't want the audio. Again, maybe I have the most inflated ego in the history of the world. I don't know. I think this is about me. I think this is about playing cuts of the crazy crap he said over the last year, laughing about it, and playing it over and over and over again. And he doesn't want that. So what do? No audio, no video. That's so embarrassing. Again, if you're going to lead this football operation out of the gutter, shouldn't you at least have the cojones to be able to do a press conference like a normal football executive would do? Or is that too much to ask around here? Now, I believe that this is Chad Brinker's decision. And I believe that Chad Brinker, who is in charge of the PR department, and the Titans have a very, very fine PR department. And their PR department was very fine before Chad Brinker showed up. But Chad Brinker is technically in charge of the PR department. So if Chad Brinker says, I don't want to be on video and I don't want to be recorded with audio, then Chad Brinker's going to get his way. Because Chad Brinker has been anointed the king of the Tennessee Titans. Can I ask one question, though? Why? I give owners a pass. Sometimes I probably shouldn't, but I do. When it comes to Herb Fritch, who owns the Nashville Predators, for instance, Herb's a healthcare executive who has a lot of money, who paid a lot of money to buy the Predators with a group of local investors because they wanted to keep the team here. That's why. Herb goes to the games, but Herb doesn't make it about Herb. He did it to keep the team here. When Herb Fritch was the chairman of the Predators, he didn't like doing a lot of media, so he didn't do it. And people would complain about it when they were upset with David Poyle or whatever. But I said, look, he owns the team. The owner of the team does not have to do things they don't want to do. They own the team. A lot of people say, when's Amy going to hold a press conference? And Amy should this and Amy should. I've actually never done that. I'm okay with the fact that Amy Adams Strunk does not feel comfortable talking to the media. I am okay with it. Now, I think that she should put somebody like Burke Nihill, one person, not two people. We don't need a committee. But she should put one person in place to speak for her and to hold press conferences when they do things like fire Mike Vrabel, etc. But Chad Brinker doesn't own the team. Chad Brinker is the president of football operations. Chad Brinker one day will be fired from the Tennessee Titans, and somebody else will be doing that job. That is, unless they get rid of that job, because I don't totally understand the redundancy of having two presidents, no matter how many times the Titans try to ball wash it and say, oh, no, we're on the cutting edge of the future of the NFL. Yeah, that's what got you to the bottom of the league, the cutting edge, which again brings me to Brinker. Brinker was hired to be Ran Carthon's assistant general manager. Brinker was hired to run the analytics for the Tennessee Titans. That's why he was hired. To be Ran Carthon's assistant general manager and to run the analytics department. That's it. So how in 2 years, in which the football team has won 9 games, how has Chad Brinker worked himself into a position where not only did he get promoted, I don't know what he did to get promoted, but not only did he get promoted, but he gets put into a position where, again, his level of accountability doesn't match what the expectation, not just in the NFL, but in pro sports is. And what does Amy see in this guy? Well, Chad Brinker's very smart. Did you know he got a degree at Northwestern and he did an MBA with it? So smart that he helped build the worst team in the NFL last year? Oh, no. That was all Ran Carthon. You mean the collaborative group that you guys bragged about last year? Chad Brinker was promoted to president of football operations before last offseason, not this year. And this guy can't even hold a media availability? We crushed Ran because Ran wouldn't hold a press conference. Then D-Mace's sources said right when Ran got fired that after the trade deadline that TD reached out to the Titans about sitting down with Ran and Chad Brinker, and that Ran was willing to sit down and talk, but Chad Brinker said, no, we're not going to do that. What did Chad Brinker ever do to reach this level of entitlement? Well, if I have to talk to the media, I don't want anybody taking my picture. I don't want any audio of it getting out. Well, that's too freaking bad. This is the NFL, which is what I would say to 99.9% of the people in the league and expect them to understand, yeah, you know what? It's something I have to do running this team in the NFL. But not the great Chad Brinker. Somebody help me out. Again, what does Amy see in this guy? What does he whisper into her ear? I'm serious. Like, what did Chad Brinker ever accomplish as a personnel guy with the Green Bay Packers to become the assistant general manager here, be promoted to president, and now not only be in a position to where he has final say on the football team, but also is allowed to hold media availabilities and tell the media, no cameras, no audio. I mean, you would think this guy owns the team. And maybe Amy does look at him like a long-lost son. I don't know. But I have to believe that this level of stupidity and this level of what feels disingenuous, what feels like somebody who's got something to hide, I have to assume this goes hand in hand with why you suck so bad. I really believe it. And this goes back again to the owner. And I love Amy's heart because I know where it, that Amy is a good person. I know that. And when she says in her statement, I love the Titans more than you can imagine, I believe. And again, I'm not demanding that Amy get up there in front of the media and hold a press conference if she doesn't feel comfortable doing it. But Chad Brinker does not own an NFL team. Chad Brinker does owe that to the fans. And for some reason, He said something, he did something, he's got pictures somewhere, I don't know what it is. Could not tell you. But he is completely above the just smallest margins of accountability. And somebody's got to explain to me why. Somebody's got to explain to me what the hell this guy has ever done to earn this type of pull in this organization. And don't give me the, oh, you don't understand, because you've been giving me, oh, you don't understand for 3 years. Maybe that's the press conference that should be had. Maybe that's what we want to see on camera and on the record and on audio. And what the hell has this guy ever done? Why the hell has this become the United States of Chad Brinker, where Chad Brinker is the president, he's the emperor, he's the king? Again, this guy was like 7th on the depth chart in Green Bay 2 years ago. And now he's so important here that he's in charge of everything. And he can only hold media availabilities if you can quote him, but you can't play the audio. What are they hiding? What's the point of this? And really, the most disappointing part of this is, to me, it takes away from the only sliver of optimism I have, which is the fact that maybe Mike Borgonzi may not have his head as far up his ass as everybody else does around here. 615-737-1025, which is our phone number, 615-737-1025, here on the program if you want to weigh in. Coming up next, if it looks like a duck, it quacks like a duck, chances are it's a duck, and I just can't get over it. I just can't get over this no matter what people say. This is what it looks like. And Chad Brinker's not doing anything to dispel these notions. We'll get to that next. Stillman and Company, 102.5 The Game.
Listen, I'm not saying that
It doesn't have to be all this, infighting. You got to do this or you're gone.
But-
You're not going to tell me who to do
no,
about
but
that.
that is the perception, right?
That is the perception.
That's the perception of the Tennessee Titans front office, that
Yeah.
they're a bunch of backstabbing, no good, you know what. That's the perception. I'm not saying that it's true.
That was D. Mace earlier today saying, look, hey, this is the perception of the Titans, that they're a bunch of backstabbing, no good. Can we play that cut again? What exactly did D. Mace go? A bunch of backstabbing, no good what?
Listen, I'm not saying that
It doesn't have
that-
to be all this, infighting. You got to do this or you're gone.
But-
You're not going to tell me who to do
no,
about
but
that.
that is the perception, right?
That is the perception.
That's the perception of the Tennessee Titans front office, that
Yeah.
they're a bunch of backstabbing, no good, you know what.
A bunch of
That's the perception.
backstabbing,
I'm not saying that
no
it's true.
good, you know what. Like that, again, I mean, that's what it looks like.
You know what?
You know what it looks like. That's what it looks like. And again, a couple weeks ago called Chad Brinker a con artist, called him a backstabber, and that pissed a lot of people off. And I'm like, look, guys, it looks like a duck, it quacks like a duck, and as I've told people 1,000 times, 99% of the time that means it's a duck. So when Derek says, hey, this front office looks like a bunch of backstabbing, no good, you know what's, and the president of football operations is only willing to talk to the media if they don't turn on a camera and they don't have a recording of the audio, and the general manager who was your boss that hired you in, that you got promoted above, who you fired, signs an NDA so he can't even talk about you on the radio interview he did last week. If that's all the smoke around this, I'm pretty sure there's a 5-alarm fire there. Again, you can tell me that Chad Brinker is not a con artist, and you can tell me that Chad Brinker is not a snake oil salesman, and you can say these things, but this is what it looks like. Because again, when Rand Carthon sits there and has to plead the fifth or isn't allowed, I think it was Kayla Anderson came out and said, we were not allowed to ask about Chad Brinker because he signed an NDA. It looks like you're hiding something. So I want to know, what are you hiding? That's what it feels like. Again, it's not like we don't know what Chad Brinker looks like. It's not like we haven't heard Chad Brinker's voice. So why is Chad Brinker afraid to just hold a press conference like a normal football executive would hold? And again, yes, tomorrow is supposed to be the Mike Borgonzi day, right? And here we are talking ahead of Mike Borgonzi's introduction about why Mike Borgonzi's boss gets the red carpet treatment, where under no circumstances are you allowed to record the audio that he says. Somebody explain this to me. What if you're not hiding something, then why can't you just do the interview? You've done it before. I mean, I don't think that Chad Brinker, when Rand Carthon brought him up there for a press conference in 2023 after the third day of the draft, I mean, I don't think that Chad Brinker went to Rand Carthon and said, Rand, I love you, and I'm running the analytic department, and you're my guy and all of this, but I have severe anxiety and I'm afraid of the camera. And so while I can run an analytics department, I just cannot talk to the press. Whatever happens, I can't talk to the press. And there are some people that have a fear of public speaking. That is a real thing. But you have to overcome that if you want to be a football executive. And again, that didn't stop Chad then. Didn't stop Chad to sit down with Mike Keith and crew for an hour and a half and yuck it up on the podcast last year. Tell us how Rand was his long-lost brother. Didn't stop him from going up there during the preseason game in the booth and talking to the two guys about how his job is to service the head coach. So that stuff never, ever was a problem. But now he's the king. And for whatever reason, I am so stunned that the Titans are stooping to this level, that he's so worried of whatever, that he would go out of his way to do this, which makes it a bigger deal than him just doing it. Like, if his availability tomorrow had a corporate sponsor attached to it, they would be getting a gazillion dollars in free press, because this is now the story is this Chad Brinker, who they say isn't a backstabber. But again, like Derek said, it looks like, a backstabber, no good, what. That again, he can't, no way, no how are you allowed to record anything this man says? Well, there's got to be a why behind it. And so now it's made it a much bigger deal than it would be if Brinker was just talking at 10 a.m. and Borgonzi was talking at 11. Phone lines driven by WilsonCountyHonda.com at 615-737-1025. Michael is up next here on our program. Michael, thank you for calling and waiting. Go ahead.
Hey, thanks for taking my call. Quick question before I get to it. Are they only not recording Brinker, and are they going to be recording Borgonzi speak?
I believe Borgonzi will be like a traditional press conference that everybody will see and hear in live time. Whereas Brinker, you will only read about the quotes tomorrow in the newspaper, which you'll get printed 3 days from now.
Yeah, when I first read about that we're not going to be able to get any video or anything, I had to do a double take because I thought it was a typo. I mean, I saw a tweet right after the Borgonzi hire of some fan basically saying, "Oh, look, the media was lying to us this whole time. Brinker is not a backstabber." I'm quoting, not quoting, but they're basically saying, "Oh, look, nothing's wrong with the Titans. Brinker got his guy. He didn't just hire his buddies." And it's like, there's genuinely people that seem to live under a rock when it comes to what's been going on with the Titans. I mean, I don't understand how you can see, hear, and just perceive what's happening and not come to the conclusion that something is up and just be like, "Oh, yeah, the Titans got it figured out. We're going to go 17-0 and win the Super Bowl next year." I just don't understand.
Everything
how
point in the direction of the Titans? Thank you, Michael. Doesn't everything kind of point in the direction that the Titans are run by morons? Like, again, every single thing they do comes with a what? Again, he's like, I had to double take when they said no audio or video of the Chad Brinker press conference tomorrow. I had to double take because I'm like, this is the NFL. We do these things on camera. You can go on YouTube right now. You can pull up John Robinson after they traded A.J. Brown. And I have never once, because people say sometimes, "Oh, you stick up for John Robinson." And I stick up for John Robinson because I think he was successful, and I think that got overlooked. But if you go back to the press conference after the A.J. Brown trade, John Robinson said at one point, "These are the hard decisions that we," stopped himself and said, "that I have to make." Put it on him. That will live in perpetuity. He said it, and that will stand with him. And it should. Well, how's that any different than Brinker making a comment that they don't want out there on YouTube and they don't want people to see and they don't want people to hear? I mean, what are we doing here? Again, it looks like you've got something to hide. And when again, we're making such a big deal about the lack of accountability that this front office, I don't even know if Brinker counts as front office or if Brinker is really more like an owner at this point. I'm serious about that. The lack of transparency that they have, that worked for the last 2 years when it was just trust us. But the fans have just trusted them to the bottom of the league. They're not trusting them now. More of your phones, 615-737-1025, which is our phone number. And there was something last week that PK said, because, Brinker and PK, I've always felt like they were kind of two peas in a pod. But there was something that PK said last week that really raised my eyebrow about the Brinker situation. We'll get to that next. Stillman & Company, 102.5 The Game.
my sense of it, and some things that I've heard about Chad, who isn't backed by everyone that's worked with him since he's been with the Titans, is that he may be a guy who wants power, but not necessarily accountability. Though I don't know how he avoids accountability here, given that he's mentioned multiple times, and Nihil too, that he's got final authority on all football matters.
That was Paul Kaharski on his podcast last week. I believe his podcast was last Thursday. And we were going to talk about that at length because that cut for me was very eye-opening. You know, we've talked about the Kaharski-Brinker relationship, which seemed pretty obvious during the season. Ian, I don't want to put you on the spot, put you in between this, but the Kaharski-Brinker relationship did feel kind of
hard to say for sure.
But deep down inside, you felt.
You never know.
Oh, come on. Again, it felt like PK was talking to Brinker when PK would say things like, I think you should blame Rand Carthon, Brian Callahan, but not Chad Brinker at all. And even now, Paulie Paul talking about, hey, there's some people in the building. Again, that cut said, hey, there are some people that do not like Chad Brinker in that building. But Chad Brinker, it seems, the sense Paul gets is that he is looking for the maximum amount of power and the least amount of accountability, which apparently is the case. Because according to PK at paulkaharski.com, we talked yesterday about the Albert Breer report. Albert Breer said that Mike Borgonzi will have final say of the 53-man roster, that Mike Borgonzi will be over coaching and scouting and all these things. And I said, what the hell's Chad Brinker do? According to paulkaharski.com, that's not true. Quote, despite a report to the contrary, this is Paul Kaharski, the Titans have not drifted from their plan for Chad Brinker to have final authority on all football matters as the team moves forward. So Brinker, again, Paul saying, no, Brinker's in charge. He can't be on camera. You can't record his voice. This is like an MSNBC special, like on drug dealers, where they kind of like, they dark the guy's face out, and he talks like they screw his voice. It's like, yeah, we were out there and we were selling 18 kilos of heroin a day, and I was making $18 million a week, and I was, or like a mob documentary where the guy's been in witness protection, and so he doesn't want to get whacked. So it's like, this mobster who we're going to call Scott, and we've changed his name and his voice for fear of retaliation, tells us that in the mob, blah, blah, blah. And Paul's saying, no. What the Titans told Albert Breer is actually not true, and Brinker's in charge. According to PK, both are scheduled to meet with the media on Wednesday. In 2023, when Rand Carthon was hired as GM, personnel decisions were cast as a collaboration between he and Coach Mike Vrabel. A year later, Brinker was promoted from assistant general manager to his current post by Amy Adams Strunk announcing that Carthon would have decision-making power concerning personnel. It says August 7th, but I think he means January 7th. On January 7th, in conjunction with the firing of Carthon, Titans president and chief executive officer Burke Nihil said Brinker would break ties with respect to the 53-man roster. But later the same day, Brinker told me, PK says, quote, I've got final authority on all football-related matters, a point he made in several other interviews as well. With the hiring of Borgonzi, there was a strong indication things had changed from SI's Albert Breer, who reported that the general manager would have final say on the roster. While we may start hearing about collaboration again as they visit with the press, a word that disappeared once Carthon was fired, Brinker maintains final say. I expect the Titans will say too much is being made of it, but when it comes to assessing free agent decisions and draft picks, it's important. Borgonzi and Brinker are charged with improving the player pool Brian Callahan will have to work with in his second season. If they work together effectively, they shouldn't be battling over decisions very often. Some teams decide if they reach that point and can't agree, they move on. Others let the tiebreaker do what the owner has assigned them to do. We'll see, or we won't, with Brinker and Borgonzi. But as he said he would be when Carthon was ousted, he's the top football guy. So PK is now saying that Albert Breer report is not true. Well, I know Albert Breer. Not well, but I know him. Albert Breer ain't making crap up. And Albert Breer is very well connected with agents, coaches, general managers. Again, the insider game is not a game I want to play because it is the definition of a kiss-ass game. And I don't want to do any of that. I just want to come on here and tell you what I think. But Albert Breer is a great, how do we say this, networker? It's probably the right way to say this. Somebody with the Titans told Albert Breer Mike Borgonzi has final say over the roster. And then somebody told Paul he doesn't. That's what happened. And Joe called this out this morning. Ian, do we have this Rex Road cut? Okay, so this morning I was listening to Joe and Robbie, and they talked about the Albert Breer report. And it's amazing because even Joe Rexrode, who almost never, ever, ever gets anything right, even Joe called this out this morning on the program, saying that, hey, if this is the case, then somebody's lying. Play the cut.
So it's a huge deal to get to this point. I still would think that you would want to go someplace where you can sustain it, where you feel like it's not going to be, where you don't have necessarily an owner who has been scattershot all over the place with decisions lately. That's where, not to mention just the haziness about the power structure. As for the Breer story, absolutely. Breer is a great reporter. He's got good sourcing, which tells me that the Titans are talking out of both sides of their mouth, which is exactly on brand for the Titans.
Joe knows it. He knows it. He said it this morning. He's like, yeah, they're talking out both sides of their mouth if the Breer report's true. And here we are. Where, again, yesterday we were told Borgonzi is running the team. Today, PK says, yeah, that's not true. And this is what con artists do. They lie. This is what snake oil salesmen do. They tell whomever they're talking to whatever it is that they want to hear. And this is why you suck, because your team is being run this way. And regardless of whether or not it's fair, regardless of whether or not, trust me, you don't know, regardless of that, that's what it looks like. As D. Mace would say, it looks like they're a bunch of backstab. What is it again, Ian, the quote? Backstabbing.
You know what?
It was what? Backstabbing, no good, you know what. That's what it looks like. And now here's Paulie Paul, who used to be in Brinker's satchel. Here's Paulie Paul coming out saying, oh, yeah, no, that Breer report's not true. I wonder if the Titans lied to the NFL when the NFL called about, hey, is this really a general manager job? I wonder if the Titans lied to Mike Borgonzi. I wonder if they told Borgonzi, hey, Mike, you're going to be in charge. Please take the job. Okay, I'll take the job if I'm in charge. Takes the job, and then, oh, actually, you're not. Like, again, I thought Rand was a part of the problem. But clearly Rand isn't the problem. Clearly Brian Callahan, because this started way before Brian Callahan ever showed up here. Brian Callahan's not the problem. This is a mess. I mean, this is a freaking embarrassment. And every single day, it gets more and more embarrassing. 615-737-1025 on our program. We're to your phones next. People want to weigh in on it? We'll do it. Stillman and Company, 1025 The Game.
So maybe this is just me worrying about this, wondering about this. But if we're looking to hear what Chad Brinker has to say, and I think we all want to hear what he has to say, I'm not sure this was the right way to go about it.
In that regard, we should be able to hear it unfiltered. We should be able to hear it live and as it's going on. You're asking, and again, I'm gonna go back to this, and it has nothing to do with anything on the football field. You're asking all these people to buy those extremely expensive seats in that new stadium, but you want to allow them to sort of hear what your whoever he is, I don't know what he is, GM, president of the president, supreme ruler of all football and the president. I don't know what he is, but you want to allow your fan base, who you're asking for all this money, you don't allow him to hear it as it's actually going. That doesn't sit well with me.
That is Derek Mason. Again, 10 a.m. tomorrow, Chad Brinker will meet with the media, and there will be no video and no audio. You heard that. Press conference with no video and no audio. In 2025, the Titans will transcribe the interview, send out the quotes. Randy texts in, and we've got a lot of people that have texted this in today that have kind of asked something similar, saying, who's going to have the stones to hold their phone in front of them as if they're live tweeting, all the while recording, then sending that to a random person to post? Or what are the odds that some of the press conference gets out? So a lot of people have said, you should go in there, Jared, and you should record it yourself and play it. I'm not going to do that. Again, this is the Titans press conference in their building. It would be like them coming on the show and, hijacking it. And again, I have respect for the rules that the Titans are putting out there. But the why we have to have these rules is either comical or incredibly telling. And unfortunately, I think it's kind of both. And that's, I think, the scary part of all of this. Dustin says, this is the South. Trust and integrity are big. It's a big reason why I like my Titans. But, buddy, not only do we stink, now we're snakes. We're liars, we're backstabbers, and integrity will make me cut someone off quick. Well, I'm thinking you're thinking that the lack of integrity would make you cut somebody off quick. You couldn't be more right. Most of the time, it's just a cancer in the locker room. But how do you expect the players to be all forthcoming and honest? No drama if the top is completely and totally fake. Again, what I got to know is what Chad Brinker ever did in his life to have this kind of sway. Again, where on the resume does it say this guy is ready to run an NFL team? He was hired to be Ran Carthon's assistant general manager. He was to be in charge of the analytics department. The analytics department, that it was very clear by the reporting that came out that Mike Vrabel kept asking, when's the analytics department actually going to give us numbers to work with? Oh, no. It will take time. It will take time, Mike Vrabel was told. And now he's the king of football around here. And supposedly, according to Diana Rossini and Charles Robinson, apparently Chad Brinker was in charge of football last year. They had the worst team in the league, and Amy has doubled down on him. And somebody has to explain why. If this were just Mike Borgonzi's job, I could tell you right now, hey, maybe there's a shot this works. Maybe there's not. Ran Carthon's resume said this guy could be a general manager in the NFL. Now, that I know Ran Carthon, he can't be a general manager in the NFL. He stinks. But Chad Brinker's resume, there's nothing on here. Ron says maybe he has Miss Amy fooled too. I'd say fooled too. He's not fooling us. He didn't fool us last year when he sat down with the Titans podcast and told us about the great AI cancer curing model that was going to allow them to save $1 million or $2 million for them to then go waste $17 million this year on L'Jarius Sneed. He's like that devil on Amy's shoulder telling her what to do. And she's listening and doing what he says with the trust that he can fix the organization. I mean, I think it's working for him. I got to tell you, I shed no tears over Rand Carthon being fired. But I'm starting to have some sympathy for Rand Carthon now. Because this stuff looks even stupider now that he's gone. And that is impressive. Craig says, the Titans are just going to type up whatever script sounds good and send it out. Again, I think there's probably some truth to that. Now, again, the way I interpreted the Titans' email about the rules for the Chad Brinker availability tomorrow, the way I interpret this is that the scribes can bring their recorders and record it, and then they can transcribe the quotes, and they can say, Chad Brinker said that whatever. So-and-so is going to play right tackle next year. Whatever. But they'll also send out a transcript. What can't happen is you can't record it and then play it on the radio, which is what they're saying. And I think that's bullcrap, but those are their rules. One texter says, tell the Titans to hitch their wagon to another city and hit the road. This is all-time ridiculous. And again, all you would have to do is sit in front of the media and answer questions for 20 minutes before Mike Borgonzi's introduced. Then when Mike Borgonzi gets introduced tomorrow, an hour after you talk, Borgonzi gets introduced, and here comes Borgonzi, and that's the end. And the fans will be all about Borgonzi and his vision and all the big talk that he has tomorrow, because when you've never lost a game, you can talk big. But instead, the Titans have to show their ass once again. And that's just the Titan way. And it's very depressing. One texter says, Jason Anderson, the guy from Kansas City that was on our show on Friday, said that he knew Brent Veach made the decision for Mahomes and wasn't exactly sure what Borgonzi's involvement was. When you're well run, you don't have to know all about who was involved. But this organization has turned into such an embarrassment that the fans are looking for the exact involvement in each decision made. Again, I think it's an accountability thing. Because it was, oh no, that draft pick that didn't work out, that was Mike Vrabel's fault now. Because that's what they do. The Titans have already told people that everything about last year was Rand Carthon's fault. Even though Chad Brinker was the president of football operations. That Chad's job was to make sure that the printer in the office had enough toner in it. Do you believe that? 615-737-1025. Hear more on the program if you want to weigh in on the show. There was a topic I was really excited about talking about. And now I'm not even sure that it really, truly matters. Like, I was truly excited about this. But after the latest report, I don't know what to make of it, if it even matters one way or another. We'll do it next. Stillman and Company, 102.5 The Game. Stillman and Company, 102.5, 106.3 The Game, streaming live on Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook Live. We are live from the busy B Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, Bridgestone Arena, Predators and Sharks. Tonight, we are presented by the Southern Bank of Tennessee, and Barry Trotz, Predators General Manager, will join us at 5 o'clock. And if you are watching the stream, you will see his face. And if you are listening to the show, you will hear his voice as he talks about the future of the Predators, which I only have to bring up because tomorrow at 10 a.m. when Chad Brinker meets with the media, you will not see his face and you will not hear his voice. According to the Titans, the Chad Brinker 10 a.m. availability will be for quote only. No video or audio for air/posting. We will provide a transcript. Live tweeting is allowed. I guess they're afraid somebody's going to take their own camera in there and bootleg a movie or something. Unbelievable. And today, the latest story that has come out is Paul Kaharski refuting Albert Breer of Sports Illustrated when yesterday, and let me make sure I get this up here with the exact right wording of what Albert Breer said. Yesterday, Albert Breer said that, quote, talking about the Titans, Callahan will report to Borgonzi. Borgonzi will report to Brinker in a setup that mirrors what you'd see in other sports. Borgonzi will oversee coaching, scouting, sports medicine, sports performance, and player development, and have final say on the roster. That was what Bert Breer said yesterday, which, again, I thought was kind of threading a disingenuous needle, but I actually thought was the truth. Because Corey Curtis came on our show Friday, and Corey Curtis said, Mike Borgonzi is not taking a job as a general manager if they don't promise him, hey, you're going to be the one making the first pick. You're going to be in charge. And I said on Friday, I go, that you can thread the Chad Brinker has final say on all football-related matters. You can thread that needle and give Borgonzi control of the 53-man roster because you can say that that is a football decision that was made by Chad Brinker. Well, you know, the guy that's in charge of Borgonzi is Brinker. The guy that's in charge of the coach is Brinker. But the final say on the 53, that goes to Borgonzi. Now, look, Borgonzi's basically going to have final say on the 53 anyways because Brinker, who already wants to run Callahan out of here, Brinker is not going to side with Callahan over the guy he hired. He's just not going to do that. But again, I go back to if Brinker didn't give Borgonzi final say, why did he take the job? If the general manager doesn't have final say, why was the NFL okay with allowing other teams' assistant general managers and other teams, you know, executives to interview for the job as if it was a promotion? Unless the Titans lied. And with the Titans, you never know who's telling the truth. Again, I am not calling Albert Breer a liar. I think Albert Breer was told by one of four people, Brinker, Borgonzi, Burke Nihill, or Amy, that Mike Borgonzi will have final say of the roster. And then I think Paul Kaharski was told by one of those four people that that's not the case. And that's where the conflicting reporting's coming in. And again, that's what snake oil salesmen do. They tell whoever they're talking to what they want to hear. So they tell the NFL, no, this is a real general manager position. Maybe they told Borgonzi he'll have final say over the roster. Then they tell Albert Breer, again, a real NFL reporter who the NFL reads, who the rest of the country reads, that Borgonzi will have final say over the roster. Then they tell Paul, a local guy, no, that's not true. Chad's in charge. And I don't know who to believe anymore. And I feel bad. I feel like I owe Chad Withrow an apology because he came on the show Friday after they hired Borgonzi. And I thought that Corey Curtis was right, and I thought that they probably had promised Borgonzi final say on the roster. And Chad said if they give Borgonzi final say on the roster, then they would have lied when they said Brinker has final say of all football matters. And I thought to myself, well, you could thread the needle of it was a football decision by Brinker to give Borgonzi total control of the 53. It would be a disingenuous needle, but it might be enough to not cross the line into just all-out lying. Now it feels like they've crossed the line into all-out lying, where they told Breer one thing and they told PK another thing. Secondly, when it comes to the Titans, you can tell me whatever you want to tell me. Most of you are completely up in arms about this, about Brinker not being on camera and not being recorded in his immediate availability tomorrow. You can tell me there's a real reason behind it that isn't they're hiding something, but it feels to me like they're hiding something. And if it's not they're hiding something, it seems a lot like they don't want the mean guy on the radio to play the cut 6 months from now when the opposite of what you say becomes reality. Because we have done plenty of that. 615-737-1025, which is our phone number, and our phone lines are driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Lee is in Mount Juliet, and he is up next and has been waiting patiently. Lee, go ahead.
Hey, guys. Appreciate being on live. Listen, man, this is a joke. I'm literally, absolutely fed up with the Titans. I'm absolutely fed up with freaking Amy Adams. The Titans have been, and no offense, there's another radio station here that's been blowing smoke about how great she is and all this stuff, and she's nowhere to be found. We pay money for all this stuff, right? Money, hard-earned money. I'm a landscape company. I work for my money. I want to go to Titans games. But they're so fake. They're so disingenuous. Amy can't be talked to by anybody. Where's Amy? Why can no one talk to Amy? Like, it's BS. I'm sick of it, man.
So
Chad Brinker, get the hell out of here.
So I agree with
Kansas
that.
City Chiefs guy, run the freaking program. Like you said, we are the first draft pick we've had in a while. But even before Marcus, we were number 2. First draft pick we got here, buddy. And there's no one to be excited about in the draft for Titans fans. That doesn't bode well. You know they're going to trade down, hopefully. And the guy running the program the last 2 years is a joke, man. He doesn't know what he's doing. Bring in the Kansas City Chiefs guy. He knows what he's doing. Give him a shot. No one said he even would want to come here, and he came. Hopefully to God, Jared, the reason he came is what you just said while I was listening, is that he does have control of this. He can do this job. They've given him that power. But I don't believe they have, and I think they're full of shit. And I think it's more
easy. But I understand your anger. And I agree with most of what you said. And here's what I'll say on the Amy front. I am fine when it comes to an owner. I am fine with the owner saying, look, I don't want to be the public face of this. If you want to be the public face of it, then you got to get up there and you got to be accountable. But if you don't want to be the public face of the operation, I'm okay with that. You can hire somebody specifically to be the public face of your operation. That's okay. But at the same time, like, we can't have a complete circus going on over here. And then for you to be upset as to why people are calling it what it looks like, which is a total circus. One texter says, this organization still can't define roles clearly. They are hiding from the press, and they feel no need to answer the fans' concerns. Things are really looking up for this team. Yeah, that's the sad part. You know, and again, back to that previous call that was talking about, hey, Kansas City Chiefs guy, you get in here, you run it. Brinker, you go away, put the Chiefs guy in, let's see what he can. I said this yesterday, and I really believe this. If they had cleaned house, which I was begging for, if they had cleaned house, started from scratch, and hired Mike Borgonzi, again, I would have preferred somebody with some experience, but if they had done that, I actually would have been okay about it. I really would have been. I would have said, okay, fine. I can live with Borgonzi. 16 years in Kansas City. He's the assistant general manager. Clearly, they do some things right in Kansas City. Let's try him out, see what his vision for the organization is. But instead, it's no. He's working for Chad Brinker, and he has to work with a coach that he didn't hire. I mean, give me a freaking break. But that's the world we live in. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. We are back to your phones at 615-737-1025. Plus, 95% of the calls and the texts, 95% today have been anger. In fact, I'm a little surprised. Visceral anger about Chad Brinker and the stipulations on his media availability tomorrow. But not Adam in Portland. Boy, is Adam in Portland worked up. We're going to get to that next. Stillman and Company, 102.5 The Game.
So I got around a lot of really, really smart people. And one of the classmates I had a PhD in neuroscience from the University of Minnesota. He had an advanced analytics degree from Oxford, and he helped design the AI technology for one of the top medical device companies in the country, where the AI was used to help the doctors identify cancer in patients. And I was just fascinated by this. And so I took what was a football problem and we put it in the context of AI. And one of the problems that we have in football is we spend a lot of money on players that don't pan out for injury. A lot of times they get injured and you end up paying for them injury settlements, or you end up cutting them once they get healthy. I was like, if we can reduce our pool there, if we can reduce our risk within that pool of players, I mean, that would be a game changer. If you can save an owner $1 million, $2 million off of one decision, I mean, that's a game changer. So I got with these guys and we started to attack the problem. And to make a long story short, we were able to develop some models that seemed promising.
Yada, yada, yada. We'll figure it out. Chad Brinker on the Titans official podcast last year. I heard that cut. I was on a walk and I heard that cut and I thought, what horse crap? And we have probably played that cut. Ian, how many times over the years do you think we've played that cut?
50.
50, 60, something like that. Times of Chad Brinker talking about, when I went to my super hoity-toity business school, I got around this guy who was Oxford and Harvard and Yale, and he's got AI to detect cancer. And I said, let's bring that over to the Titans.
Not sure that's apples to apples, but like football injuries and cancer, what did that have to do with each other?
Again, horse crap is what that was. It was all hot air. It was all embarrassing. And so we played the cut because I'm like, okay, if we've got this great model that, hey, this analytics model will save $1 million. Why'd you give Aaron Brewer a second-round tender? Nobody was going to give Aaron Brewer a contract that you couldn't just match. But they're so smart. They're so smart. Buck Rising tweeted out, by the way, quote, and this was about a minute ago from Buck, the only reason I can come up with for the Titans to not put Chad Brinker in front of cameras and microphones tomorrow is because they don't want audio and video clips that can be used against them if this goes wrong again. To which Caleb replied to Buck's tweet, Ian, and said, so they're protecting themselves from Jared Stillman playing clips 24/7.
Oh, boy.
Adam in Portland. Most people are upset about, again, the lack of transparency that the Titans are even pretending to give their fans. And Adam in Portland is the only person that has really pushed back in their favor. Adam in Portland to the text line says, quote, you brought this on yourself by disrespecting him at an unprofessional level. I don't think he sees you as mean. He sees you as an ass and won't give you ammo to roast him. Again, regardless of the clips and me playing them and everything else, maybe just don't say stupid stuff and you won't have that problem. He says you should treat people on the Titans better, not just the Predators. As the flagship of the Predators and not the Titans, maybe they'd be more willing to engage if you were more professional. For someone who claims to love the Titans, it's clear they don't want to be on your show, and that says a lot. I don't like them, but maybe you aren't doing yourself any favors. Cancer curing, this and that. Holy crap. The negativity is sickening, Adam says. Yeah, he sucks, but damn, get to the players and the team. Find a new subject. Then when I teased that we were going to talk about what Adam in Portland said, he said, I don't care. I don't have to scream and listen to everyone else and agree with everyone else like this is Fox News or something. This is a dumb topic, and it's weird that you're confused why somebody would not want to give you audio to be able to punish them. Do I think he's dumb? Sure. Do I blame him for not wanting to give you ammunition? No, I do not. Again, can I ask a serious question? Because I actually do believe that the reason Chad Brinker is not allowing audio or video of his press availability tomorrow is simply because this show plays cuts over and over and over again. We did it with things Rand said. We do it with things he says. Is this show really that big of a deal? Like, is this show really that big of a deal that you have to almost publicly admit, yeah, we don't want to get roasted on the Jared Stillman program. Like, is it really that? Because, again, if you just shot people straight, if you just showed an ounce of humility or an ounce of honesty and integrity, I think that would come out over the airwaves and people would respect it. But instead, it's just run. Let's go to Jared in Spring Hill, 615-737-1025. Jared in Spring Hill's up next on Brinker. Jared, go ahead.
Hey, good afternoon. I want to go back to a couple callers before Ab in Portland. I got another 4-letter S word that we can attribute to this. Soft, Stillman, soft. Okay. This is some of the most soft stuff. And, you know, not to inflate your ego or anything like that. I do think that you do a great job. I love the fact that you play all the cuts because these are what they say. These are what they're telling us. It's not like you're making this up out of thin air. And then we interpret. Again, if you go back and shoot stuff straight, then us as fans would have less questions. There would be more integrity. There would be more transparency, but there's not. And it's just very frustrating as a Titans fan because if there's already this dysfunction behind closed doors, it's only going to get worse as the draft looms and then free agency and then the summer and everything else. So, I mean, it just sucks that our owner hasn't really learned from the past. And it sucks that I've tried to be a fan of another team. Like I've tried it. I've tried to read their stuff. I try to listen to their local radio. It doesn't work. And I wish that I could be like Robbie and kind of like disassociate myself from this. But in a way, I'm here for it. Stillman, like I really am. And I just don't know where, this is going to go. So like in your actual, I don't know if you've actually said how you think or how you view about it, the situation yet. But regarding Brinker and relinquishing control, do you really think that is what's going to happen? Like, I know you project a lot. That's fine.
Sure.
But based on this, do you think, like, how you think it's going to go? Do you think it's going to be Brinker at the end of the day having final say? Or do you think that Super Chad is going to relinquish power to yet another Mike in the Titans organization? Like, I guess it's one thing you get an interview.
Well, let me answer that question for you, Jared, and I appreciate your call. And by the way, as a Titan fan, I'm in your boat. Like, I can't pick another team to root for. I'm not interested in picking another team to root for. I'm not. I love my Titans. I want my Titans to be good. I want to go to the game. I want to cheer. It's so much fun when they're good to be on the radio and talking about on a Titan Monday after they get a big win. And I love my football team. I do. When Amy says she loves the Titans more than you can imagine, I don't doubt that. But guess what? So do I. But when Robbie Stanley said, 10 years ago or whatever it was, that he was out on the Titans, Robbie Stanley said that Jeff Fisher ruined Titan football for him. He's out, and now he's a Packer fan. I can't blame him. I cannot blame him for that. And I just want that, to be out there. But I love my football team. And again, the dysfunction is just running rampant. There's no way this is not dysfunctional. It looked dysfunctional when it came to Vrabel and Carthon in 2023. And everybody said, no, it's not dysfunctional. And TD did a sit down with Rand and Vrabel in which they said they loved each other, kind of similarly to when Coach Cal and Mitch Barnhart sat down and said we loved each other after last year, and then Cal went to Arkansas. But they told TD we love each other, but it looked dysfunctional. But people said, no, it's not dysfunctional. Then we found out it was. This year looked dysfunctional, but it looked like everybody was a part of the problem. Everybody had been given responsibility. Everybody was aligned. Everybody was pulling the rope in the same direction. And then they fired one guy. And now it's the definition of ambiguity and, again, as Joe said today, talking out of both sides of their mouth, telling Albert Breer one thing, then telling Paul another thing. And there is no way, after 2 years of this, that this is some overblown media fan overreaction and that no, it may look dysfunctional on the outside, but I promise you it's not. There's no way that's the case. It is obvious. It is obvious that it is dysfunctional over there. And again, the people over there, there are good people over there. There are really good people over there. But they're all just trying to batten down the hatches and hope that they don't get swept away by the hurricane. Scott in Kansas City said, here's an idea. If the Titans don't like the way you talk about them, maybe they should try winning. I kind of agree. In all seriousness. Like I said to somebody last year who swore to me up and down, Rand Carthon was the answer. And I said to that person, I go, one of us is going to be right. Well, it turns out I was right. But if they were right, they'd be the first to say, hey, we told you Rand Carthon was the man. And I'd be the first to say I was wrong. And I would. 615-737-1025. More of your phones on the program. Stillman & Company, 1025 The Game.
So maybe this is just me worrying about this, wondering about this. But if we're looking to hear what Chad Brinker has to say, and I think we all want to hear what he has to say, I'm not sure this was the right way to go about it.
In that regard, we should be able to hear it unfiltered. We should be able to hear it live and as it's going on. You're asking, and again, I'm gonna go back to this, and it has nothing to do with anything on the football field. You're asking all these people to buy those extremely expensive seats in that new stadium, but you want to allow them to sort of hear what your whoever he is, I don't know what he is, GM, president of the president, supreme ruler of all football and the president. I don't know what he is, but you want to allow your fan base, who you're asking for all this money, you don't allow him to hear it as it's actually going. That doesn't sit well with me.
There you go. That was D Mace earlier today. And apparently we have an update. So tomorrow, again, it was originally distributed by the Titans that Chad Brinker would be available at 10 a.m., but no audio and no video. And even they went nuts on the midday show. So when people say, well, Jared Stillman's making a big deal, that was D. Mason Vingan, and that was before we came on the air. So don't just blame me. Because, I mean, everybody in the media circles has been talking to each other, at least that I know, that's like, what is the deal with this? Now, Borgonzi is at 11, and Borgonzi would be your standard operating procedure press conference. And the update I have is that Chad Brinker will be available and on camera tomorrow at 11 o'clock as part of the Borgonzi press conference. So basically, if there's any follow-up to what's happened, those can be asked at 10 a.m., and then the Borgonzi and the future and moving on and all of that, 11. But Brinker will be available, and he'll be on camera. Ian, does any of this make sense to you?
I mean, it makes sense that Brinker would be at the Borgonzi press conference to like introduce him and talk about the hiring process. I would think that makes sense.
Does the point of, hey, there's going to be an availability with just quotes, no audio, no video. There's going to be all of that with Brinker.
Uh-huh.
But no audio, no video.
Uh-huh.
Then Borgonzi. But Brinker will be part of the Borgonzi press conference. You can ask Brinker. I say you, I'm talking about me. You can ask Brinker questions on camera, on the record, at the Borgonzi press conference.
About the same things that were talked about in the previous press conference?
I mean, I don't think they can tell you what to say and what not to say.
Yeah.
You know, Vingan brought this up, and I actually forgot about this. Vingan brought up the day that the Predators fired Peter Laviolette and hired John Hines. It was all very shotgun wedding-y. And what they did was they fired Laviolette on a Monday night at like 5:30. Then on Tuesday, they played the Boston Bruins, and they had already hired John Hines. So David Poile held a press conference, and they took They took questions. I can't believe I said they took phones. They took questions, and then about Laviolette and the decision for Poile to move on from Laviolette, and then they introduced John Hines, and then John Hines took questions. That makes sense. But again, it wasn't like, hey, the David Poile stuff where they talk about Laviolette, that was on camera for whatever that's worth. So make of that what you will. Again, for me,
I guess it kind of makes sense given there's so many questions to Brinker about the whole situation, since no one's heard from really anybody since the firing of Carthon and the end of the season, other than Callahan for a day or two. And so I get that there's going to be a lot of questions about Carthon and the hiring process and Brinker and who has final say and all the things that went wrong this past year that would totally hijack a Borgonzi press conference, you know, but
sure.
I think that's partially the Titans' problem of not having Brinker available before that all went down. Get all that out of the way, and then you can move on to the GM hire situation.
I mean, I remember when they fired Mike Mularkey. And, I mean, that was a controversial firing, even though most of the fans didn't like Mularkey, which I could not understand. But they fired Mularkey on a Monday morning, or they mutually agreed to break up, which Mularkey has said was bullcrap. I mean, he got fired. So they fired Mularkey on Monday. And John Robinson on Monday morning had a press conference. And I mean, it was not contentious, but it was serious. Like, it was a serious press conference. Why did you fire a winning coach? Like, where are you going? Where was it? By the time they hired Mike Vrabel, I mean, Mularkey was dead and gone. Like, that was over. Everybody had moved on. They had forgotten about it. They didn't. That's the way it's supposed to be done. And this is kind of all, back and forth. Let's go to Lou, who's up next here on our program, 615-737-1025. Lou, thank you for calling and waiting. Go ahead.
I just have a bone to pick with you. I was listening to your show earlier, like at 2 o'clock or 3 o'clock. And I feel like maybe you're delusional. I don't think the Titans or their front office are worried about what somebody has to say on the radio. I feel like they are professionals. They know exactly what they're doing. I don't think Chad Brinker is listening to 1025 and saying, oh my God, what is Stillman saying about me? If he wants to talk, he's going to talk. If not, he's a professional. He's a grown man. He's literally a professional in the front office of an NFL football team. I don't think he cares about what anybody on the radio has to say about anything. He can do what he wants because he's got that position. If that makes sense. Like, he's not.
Why does he not want that 10 a.m. on camera?
It doesn't matter. That's his prerogative. Like, you feel me? Like,
we should just, whatever he wants goes. He is the king of the Tennessee football team, and we should all just suck it up and accept it and never question anything.
I think for you, I think you're maybe taking it too, I don't know, personal or too serious. It's just football. And I'm pretty sure in that front office, everybody's working together to try and make this team better.
You mean like how he and Rand were working together to make this team better?
I think that whole situation with Rand is probably being taken all out of proportion. I feel like every NFL football team is literally working together to try and go win a Super Bowl. There's nobody throwing nobody under the bus or anything like that. I think everybody's taking it out of proportion. Thank you.
Yeah. I mean, I will tell you, you know what? I think that caller just swayed me.
Good.
I think I've changed my opinion. I think the Titans are a very well-run organization. I think the Titans, from top to bottom, they are the smartest football team there is out there. They know. And every little thing is beyond questioning. Because that's what that call felt like, which was, look, I understand the idea. Like I said, that the reason why I think Brinker didn't want people to have audio or video is because we played the cuts over and over and over and over again, whether it's the AI cancer curing model one, whether it's the servicing the head coach one, which we always laugh about, whatever it may be. Lately we've been playing the Rand Carthon tire pumping cut that we love to play. I mean, I do think that that was the reason why they were like, no, let's get the quotes on the record so we can say that we talked, but let's not have these run over and over and over and over and over again the same way all the Rand stuff got run over and over and over again. And that may not be the case. That may not be the case. Maybe I, again, have an overinflated sense of self-worth. Maybe I am. Maybe you're right. Maybe Chad Brinker's never even heard. Maybe Chad Brinker doesn't even know 1025 has sports. But I doubt it. Again, it's not just me that sat there and said, no audio, video, but we're going to allow quotes. Come on now. 615-737-1025 is the phone number, 615-737-1025. Okay, a breather from all of this. Some news I'm actually a little surprised by. We'll get to that next. Stillman & Company, 1025 The Game.
Hey, Mike.
Hi, Tommy.
What is your plan for offensive and defensive coordinators? Is that solidified already? And if not, what's the process?
No, that's far from solidified. You know, we want to put the best talented coaches in front of our players. When they stand in front of these players, I want the players to embrace what every coach is teaching. And I will tell you this, as long as I'm the head coach here, our coaches will have 3 simple jobs. And they sound simple, and they're probably not as simple as we want to make them be, but they want to teach, they want to develop, and they want to inspire our players by making a connection. We're going to make strong connections with our players so that we can coach them and we can push them. And, you know, I've really believed in this system, and I believe in having great teachers, great developers, and also coaches that will inspire our men by making a connection.
That was Michael Richard Vrabel, a.k.a. his friends call him Dick. That was Mike Vrabel about his coordinators, and I have been watching the Patriots and their coaching staff with a very keen eye. And I was wondering, was Mike Vrabel going to double down on the Vrabel buddy crew that was occupying the coaching staff here, especially at the end? Or was Vrabel going to hire real coaches in New England? Well, we have some breaking news. According to Ian Rappaport, the New England Patriots are hiring Josh McDaniels to be their offensive coordinator. This will be his 3rd stint. Remember, he was the offensive coordinator when Vrabel was a player there, and then he went to be the Denver Broncos head coach, and then he got into it with Jay Cutler, and he had to trade him, and he drafted Tim Tebow, and then he got fired there. And then he was in New England with Brady that second go-round, and then after he spurned the Colts, he ended up taking the Raider job. That was also an unmitigated disaster, and now Josh McDaniels is back where he belongs in Foxborough with Mike Vrabel. Rappaport saying the favorite all along. He interviewed today and solidified his standing, and now he'll join Mike Vrabel's staff and work with Drake May. The special teams coach who was in New England, I can't remember his name. I don't know who he is. He's being retained on the staff. By the way, Tom Quinn is the assistant special teams coach. He was Vrabel's interim special teams coach after he fired Craig Aukerman. So what that means was Josh McDaniels, offensive coordinator, no Todd Downing, no Tim Kelly. Whoever the guy was, the
Jeremy
special teams
Springer.
coach, Jeremy Springer, whoever the hell that is. Do you think he's any relation to Jerry Springer?
Couldn't tell you.
Maybe Jerry Springer's kid. Which, by the way, I did watch the Jerry Springer documentary. It is wild. Jeremy Springer is the special teams coach, which means no Craig Aukerman. Oh my God, Vrabel 2.0. He's actually getting the lesson. It looks like it's between Terrell Williams and Ryan Crow for the defensive coordinator position. Both those guys were here under Vrabel. Vrabel was always going to hire a Vrabel lackey to be the defensive coordinator because when Mike Vrabel's the head coach, the real defensive coordinator is Mike Vrabel. Which doesn't mean it's not going to be a train wreck because Shane Bowen in 2020, before Jim Schwartz showed up, that was a train wreck. But it actually does seem like Mike Vrabel has learned maybe a lesson or two. Because when it came to Vrabel's coaches, when he was here, it was like freaking, I'm defending my coaches with my life because they're my coaches and I know they're great coaches. And here, Vrabel's like, no, I'll put Josh McDaniels in there over Tim Kelly, who hasn't done anything, or Todd Downing, who hasn't. I'll put McDaniels in there and let him work with the young guy. Now, that may have been a Robert Kraft thing as much as anything else, but it does show Vrabel willing to play ball. And I have said, I think Vrabel's going to fail because I don't trust Vrabel to be able to develop the quarterback. But I do believe this is a big step in the right direction for Mike Vrabel, that he's hiring Josh McDaniels. And if you think things are bad around here now, let the Patriots get good under Vrabel, and this place is going to riot. Because even though I was in favor of moving on from Vrabel, and I think Vrabel, I actually thought that Vrabel was not going to learn his lesson and that he was going to double down on the problems he had when he was here. That's why I think if John Robinson gets another job somewhere, I actually think John Robinson will do a good job because he won't double down on those problems. Vrabel, I thought, would. Here's Vrabel already saying, nope, go ahead. Put put Josh McDaniels in there running the offense for the young quarterback. I think that's a good idea for Mike Vrabel. One texter says Mike Vrabel sounds like he has a concussion. I don't think so. I think Mike Vrabel sounds like Mike Vrabel. Apparently, Chad Brinker's doing a morning. Never mind. I don't want to get anybody mad. Got everybody all worked up last time. Hopefully, he'll actually be allowed to talk this time, unlike the pleading the fifth and talking about the Kendrick Lamar and Drake beef, which I didn't even know about, nor have I thought about since I heard that brought up. One texter says, I wonder if Vrabel will have the same injury issues he had with the Titans, being with the same strength coach. Has he hired a strength coach? The only other thing I care about now on Vrabel's staff, I don't even care who the D coordinator is. The only thing I care about on Vrabel's staff, now that I know it's not going to be Downing or Kelly, and I know it's not going to be Ackerman on special teams, offensive line coach. Like, is Vrabel going to get a real offensive line coach? Or Hodeling and Keith Kelly or Keith Carter and those guys. Though Keith Carter and I lived in the same neighborhood, which I found out during COVID. One texter says, Vrabel is no doubt twice the coach Callahan is. Again, I don't think Callahan is the problem around here, though. I'm not convinced Callahan's a great coach. I'm not convinced that Callahan is the problem when it comes to the Titans. One texter says, Callahan has zero presence. You can feel Vrabel's presence through a press conference. Easy on that. Again, I think Callahan's, again, I'm not sure he's proven to me that he's a good coach, but I'm not convinced that he's for sure a bad coach either. Okay, Barry Trotz is set to join us here on the program. 615-737-1025 here on the program. If you want to weigh in, 615-737-1025. Barry Trotz is supposed to join us here at the top of the hour. As always, Stillman & Company. We'll do that next. 1025, 106 for the game. Stillman and Company, 102.5, 106.3 The Game, streaming live on Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook Live. We are live from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios. We are presented by the Southern Bank of Tennessee, and we are live with Predators General Manager Barry Trotz here on the program as Barry joins us every Tuesday at 5 o'clock. Barry, how are you?
I'm doing well. You?
So I went to the game Saturday against Minnesota.
Yep.
I actually took my Canadian in-laws, I guess. Took the Canadian family in there. We had the cousin or the niece and the nephew and the brother-in-law, and we went to the game and we had a great time. It was a very exciting game. There were fights, which everybody likes, and then there was butt kicking of John Hines, which of course I like very much. But here's the tough part: that team that I saw on the ice on Saturday night, if that team had been together as long as they've been now at the beginning of the year, I don't think you'd be in the hole that you're in now. But now I'm worried that you guys are going to start winning a lot of games and finish just outside of the playoffs, but not with a high draft pick this year. And it's starting to worry me. Should I be worried? How should I feel about what I feel like I'm seeing, which is a team that does look like they're starting to come together, albeit maybe a little late?
Yeah, I think the team is coming together. You see they're playing a lot faster. Our back end is really moving the puck quickly. They're joining the rush. They're part of it. Guys are playing free, which are things that you wanted to see right from the get-go. And our top players are being our top players, which in this league you cannot win. Any league you can't win without your top players being your best players. We're playing good hockey right now. At the same time, I thought we were really turning the corner way back when, and we went on the Canadian trip, and you run into 4 injuries on the back end, and Ryan O'Reilly and Nyquist get hurt, and then you don't even look like a shell of the team that you were. So if we stayed healthy and played the way we did on Saturday night, we'll be climbing the standings pretty quickly. But at the same time, it's a long season, and a lot of things can happen.
Are you at a point right now where you think this team could go on a heater and actually give it a shot at maybe making the playoffs, or is that too far in the rear view?
No, I think this team has a history of doing that. You saw it last year. There's too much character in that room, which I've always talked about. The guys care. They want to do really well. They're very prideful, and they're starting to feel like they're coming together. I mean, our guys that are those legacy players, the Stamkos, the Marchessaults, the guys like that, they feel like Nashville's now they're home, and they're playing at the level that we expected them to play. So, and then guys like Roman Josi, I think he's been off this year, but I think he's starting to come around again. So all your top guys, Forsberg, who 18 games without a goal, he was contributing, but you expect him to score a little bit. Now he's scoring, it seems like, every game. So, this team is we could go on a heater, or we could, fall off. But I think I'll say the culture is really strong, and the work ethic is really good, and they're having fun again. So, all those things, when they come together, if you can stay healthy, you could take a little bit of run of it.
It wasn't long ago, Barry Trotz with us, that it felt like every week we were having conversations about the coach and the job of the coach, and whether he was on the hot seat and whether it was time to make a change. Do you feel like what you've seen lately was kind of a justification, if nothing else, for you wanting to stay the court? Do you feel like you've been rewarded with what you've seen out of the team by saying, no, we're going to stay together on this instead of changing the coach?
Well, I think one of the things that the easy thing to do is always change the coach. And when you change a coach, there's a new process. There's going to be a new coach bump. I mean, you can even talk about when I came here, when David, had me come in, and it was the general manager in waiting, if you will. Our team got a bump. Even though we moved a lot of players out, the team got a bump from that. You can get a bump from a new coach. You see it. I think Detroit had a little bit of a bump here with Todd McClellan going there. But I just felt long term, like I really truly believe if you have a vision, and I could see it was coming, but it wasn't there. If you stick with it long enough, usually you'll come out better on the other side. And I've learned that over years, that you don't know how close you are to succeeding when you feel like you just want to quit, and that's when you want to change or whatever. You might be really close. The thing that I look for was, are the leaders still following the coaches? Are they giving effort? Are they listening? Are they turning? Are they rolling their eyes? Yeah, you can feel it as a coach. You can see it, and I never felt that. So when I made that decision that, hey, we're going to stay with Bruno. I thought on both sides. There's no question. I had to from a ownership standpoint, from a management standpoint, and a fan standpoint. At the same time, I was always looking for those red flags, those cues, and there was a lot of them, but a lot of them were for just individual play or execution stuff, or a little bit of bad luck, if you want to call it. And a lot of those were red flags, but they kept seeing, happening, and you wonder if you just change the mojo a little bit. But when it came to the effort and the buy-in, I never felt that there was a red flag there. So I think I'm feeling a lot better about my decision, obviously. And what you're seeing on the ice, like you saw on Saturday, that's what I want the Nashville Predators to be about. I want to be able to, the big boys want to drop the gloves and go at it. Let's go at it. We can play that way. If you want to play fast, we can do that. Can we beat you in special teams? We can do that. Just be a well-rounded team. 4 lines coming at you and everybody buying in. And Saturday was a good vision of what we would like to do.
Is there any chance that, let's say this team does play well down the stretch, again, making the playoffs is going to be really, really hard.
Yeah.
So let's, for right now, put that off to the side. So let's say that this team plays well down the stretch. It clicks the way it looked like on Saturday night. Again, the veteran players all seem kind of acclimated to one another in the system. And is there anything that can be translated into next season? Because sometimes I feel like teams talk about finishing strong and playing for pride, but the offseason's so long that when you start anew again, it's always kind of like and I worry this is going to be a lost season, that this team's not going to make the playoffs, and this team is going to win too many games to have a high pick. And I'm like, if we're going to have a lost season, let's pick second. Let's pick first and get that player and then go. And I'm a little worried about that. But is there something positive that can come out of that?
Yeah, well, I think the positive is that, you can see that the group, you couldn't see it when Stammer and maybe Marchie and Yost and Phillip weren't going. Now you can see it when they're going, and now they were excited when we made the moves.
Sure.
But we never saw it. And I think now they see it and they go, you know what? I see it now. We added some of the Milwaukee guys. I think what it's going to do is galvanize the fact, because it's hard for veteran players sometimes when they see a team is getting younger and they go, well, he hasn't played in the league and he hasn't done this. They don't have a lot of street credibility in players coming up. So they have to earn that street credibility. What the season has done for us is giving some street credibility to our young guys. We haven't done it. The players that we've called up have gone on the ice and done a really good job, be it, the Willsbys and the Svechkovs and people like that who've come up. LaRue, those guys are getting, they're getting some street cred with their teammates and around the league. And I thought, Zach was a good example. He got himself in a situation where it was tough. He answered the bell and fought right away. That got him some credibility around the league and also with his teammates. Trennan's a lot bigger than him, and Zach knows that he's a lot bigger and probably a lot stronger and maybe tougher, and he answered the bell, and that's what you want, guys to answer the bell night in and night out.
What are your thoughts on all that, by the way? Barry Trotz with us on the program. Again, LaRue sleuthed with the guy in Minnesota a couple weeks ago or whatever it was, got suspended for 3 weeks. I mean, again, I thought it was pretty dirty, and the league thought it was with suspending him. And immediately the Wild spend, I don't know, what was it, all week talking about, we're going to go show, we're going to immediately gloves come off. Boy, he took a lick. He took a couple licks. But what do you make of kind of the whole fracas on Saturday with the 3 fights right away and everything else. And then your team kind of coming out on top and really kicking the crap out of Minnesota at the same time.
Well, I think around the league, if I was on the Minnesota side, I would, and that happened to one of our players, I would want the same response that Minnesota had early in the game. Now, I'd also want to continue that and make it really hard on that visiting team. But we responded. Guys stepped up. You know, they saw that they went after LaRue. So who goes next? Schenner says, you know what? You're not getting the best of us tonight. He steps up. And even a guy like Mark Jankowski, I mean, I think Hartman knows Janko. Janko's not a fighter, but he accepted the challenge from Hartman to go. And win or lose, it didn't really matter. To me, what it says when you show up to the fight, that you're willing to fight. It's the guys that don't want to come to the fight and say, you know, answer the bell. Those are the guys I don't want. So win or lose, it doesn't matter to me as long as you show up for the fight.
How did Jankowski get drug into all that?
Well,
I saw him fighting down there, and I mean, you know, about last year sometime, you know, I was a big Jankowski fan last year. So I always felt like he was, you know, scoring goals in the right place at the right time. And, you know, his mom followed me on Twitter, and I was telling people, I was like, you know, I'd be careful, Mom, because I go hard in the paint. You know what I mean? But I'm a Jankowski fan, I guess. And then I'm watching him drop the gloves with Hartman. And I mean, I remember when Hartman was here and he played like Happy Gilmore out there. So now I got Jankowski fighting him. I'm like, what is Jankowski doing in the middle of the fight? How did that happen?
Well, I don't think there was any history between them. I just think that Hartman saw that, you know, that we responded with the fight, and he goes, "Okay, I'm going to respond to your response." And he looked around and said, "Okay, I'm going to pick you," versus maybe McCarron or someone else. So, but I was really proud of Janko. Janko said, "You know, okay, yeah, let's go." And I don't know when the last time Janko fought, but you know, he showed up, and I admire that.
Barry Trotz is with us on the program. You brought up some of the younger guys that have gotten in there. Fedor Svechkov, especially, he scored the other night. I do wonder what you like about him, what you kind of see his upside being in this roster, and where he fits in big picture with this.
Well, I think with Svesh, you know, a lot of people, you know, you look at him. Number one, he's got a big profile. He's put together pretty well. He's got some size. He's got some strength. He's still, you know, people forget I think he's maybe 22 at the best. Might still be 21. And I love the fact that you watch him. He'll get to the middle of the ice and he'll shoot it or he'll make a play. And defensively, he's pretty reliable. He's going to have to get better and more consistent in the faceoff circle for us. I think he can play on the power play. He skates pretty well. I think his upside is probably a really good second line two-way centerman. He's got a great personality. I think he's going to be a long-time NHLer. So, you know, when we had all the injuries, I wanted him to play in the middle of the ice. You know, Tommy Novak's doing a great job on the wing right now for Svesh. And we, you know, with the young guys, we wanted to play them in the positions that I expect them to play here.
I got to tell you, I thought that play that Novak made the other night to set up Svechkov on the goal is probably the best play he made all year. He stole a puck on the forecheck, dropped it right in front of the net to Svechkov, who put it in there.
Yeah.
What's gotten into him?
Well, I think he's seeing, you know, a guy like Svechkov. Backside pressure is a great thing to have. You know, especially where we are, you know, we're getting a look at some of the young guys. They're coming up at a necessity, really, just because we have so many injuries. And I think he just realizes, hey, there's a guy that's, you know, trying to work his way onto the lineup, and I got to pick up my play, and my play can be at a different level. And I'm on the wing, and you know, I got to pick up my pace, and he has. I thought he's played more like Tommy Novak in the last, you know, probably 4 or 5 games.
Barry Trotz is with us on the program. Can we put the Ryan O'Reilly trade rumors to bed? I heard his comments about how, yeah, he's heard it, but he's committed here. Again, I think we talked about it last week, and you said, you know, if somebody knocks my socks off, sure. But when you say knock your socks off, I mean, I really think that you're saying, like, correct me if I'm wrong here, a high-end, young NHL-ready player. I don't think you're interested in any more picks. I don't think you're interested in a 17-year-old in Nova Scotia who will be, years and years away.
Yeah.
I think it's like a 22-year-old. Right now he's on the third line, but he could play on the second line at some point in his career type player. I don't think anybody that would want to add Ryan O'Reilly to their team is going to trade that away because a team that would add Ryan O'Reilly is already a good team. So barring some team taking a young guy that is actually legit and trading him to you, is it fair to say that the O'Reilly trade rumors can be put to bed and it's not happening?
Yeah, but we always want to leave a window open because in this game, I get surprised all the time when I think a team or a team has got a core guy and he's going to be there for a long time. And you're seeing it in Vancouver right now. You just don't know. So I always got there. I'm going to say that I'm always going to leave the window open just a bit. But I recognize and value what Ryan O'Reilly brings night in and night out. He gets the hard matchups. He's an absolute pro in every sense of the word. And he's a great person. He's got a great work ethic, and we've got a lot of young guys that are coming, which could learn from him. And that was the reason when I got him, I said, this is about long-term culture and winning. And he brings both of those.
It just feels to me like you value him more than what teams would want to trade you.
Yeah, everybody wants to get Ryan O'Reilly because he's priced right. He's a proven winner. He's an exceptional player and an exceptional person. And they want to give you, pennies on the dollar, and that's not going to work. You better give me dollars over dollars for my dollar.
So there were a lot of people that seemed kind of bummed out because Yaroslav Askarov played, I guess, yesterday against Boston, and so he won't play tonight in net. I do wonder, now that San Jose is in town, in retrospect, how do you feel about what you got out of the Askarov trade and where you stand there?
Well, I think Askey's ceiling is one of the best for his age group, especially in net. He could be a game changer. There's no question. We know that. But I know the situation we were in, and what we got in return, in especially David Edstrom, seeing him at the World Juniors, and knowing how many calls I've, people just when we're talking, what would you do here? What would you do here? Would you consider trading this player? That player's name comes up a lot. And so I think we've got pretty good value there. But the true value when we do this deal will be the player that we get with the Vegas pick, and looking down the road, probably 10 years from now, which guys have really good careers. And if Askey has a fantastic career, then it's a good trade. It's a good hockey trade if we can get our two guys to have good careers as well.
Now that Vegas pick as compared to San Jose's original pick, they look very different as of right now.
Yeah. Right now, it's
was there no way? Was there no in the negotiation? Was there any chance of getting San Jose's true pick?
No. There was 0.0.
That's really.
And I, if I was on the other end, that would be the same case.
I'm guessing you tried to get San Jose's original.
I did. I tried the last couple of years to get a top 5 pick.
Barry Trotz, as always, Barry, we look forward to chatting next week, and good luck so far. And again, I'm kind of on the fence about the winning because I do like to win, but.
Culture is everything. And, I want to win. I don't want to tank. You've asked me that. That's not my DNA. But at the same time, I'm sort of with you. Like if it's a failed season and we pick really high, then there'll be a positive from it. But if we go on a heater here and take a run, then we'll find different ways to get it done. That's my philosophy.
Barry Trotz, as always, on our program, Stillman and Company, 102.5 The Game. Stillman and Company, 102.5 The Game. We went along there with Barry Trotz, as we always do. It is funny, somebody texts into the text line and says, ask Barry about Svechkov. He seems to be improving every game. I will say this. I do like Fedor Svechkov. I will say this when it comes to the Predators. I love Barry, and I love the fact that, hey, he stood up for the coach, even if I didn't technically agree with it. But I do kind of feel like they're going to win a lot of games down the stretch, and this is going to be a lost season, or it's going to feel like a lost season because they won't end up getting the high draft pick, but they also probably won't make the playoffs. And that's the part that is at least a little depressing. Now, they'll sell off some assets, but again, the guys they sell off, it's like when they traded Carrier, it's not going to make much of a difference. And that's really too bad because, gosh, I would love that pick number 2 or number 1, and then next year be good again with the number 1 pick or the number 2 pick. It's kind of like in the WNBA. I want to say the LA Sparks one year, Lisa Leslie got pregnant, and then they were able to draft Candace Parker, and then they had Lisa Leslie and Candace Parker. That's kind of what I was looking for. 615-737-1025, which is our phone number, 615-737-1025. So Chad Brinker has gone from he'll do the press availability, but you can't tape it, you can't record it, you can't to now 3 availabilities for Chad Brinker tomorrow. What do we make of that? Plus, something that is absolutely going to get cleared up tomorrow one way or another, and I don't think the Titans can come out of tomorrow's press conference, is with there being any ambiguity surrounding this. We'll get to it next. Stillman and Company, 102.5 The Game. Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical. I love my guys at Hiller. They are the best. They take great care of my home. Again, I said I renovated what was essentially a storage closet in my garage, made it a room. It's added 417 square feet to my house, and I couldn't have done it without Hiller. Again, the electrical work, Hiller. The HVAC work, Hiller. They are the best. And I'll continue to use Hiller because I trust them. And because Jimmy Hiller was recently named amongst the most admired CEOs because of the way he truly cares for his team and his clients. And I know that because I use Hiller. 100% satisfaction of Happy You'll Be Here. The service is free, and you can learn more at happyhiller.com. That's Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, Electrical. Proud supporters, the Preds, the Vols, and Vandy. Hiller. Call the Happy Face Truck today.
listen, I'm not saying that
it doesn't have to be all this, infighting. You got to do this or you're gone. You're not going to tell me who to do.
No, but that is the perception, right?
That is the perception.
That's the perception of the Tennessee Titans front office, that they're a bunch of backstabbing, no good, you know what? That's the perception. I'm not saying that it's true.
That was D. Mace earlier today. And again, he said it, not me. He said it, not me. The backstabbing, no good, you know what. So I want everybody to know, I did not say that. D. Mace said that. I'm not saying I didn't say it, but D. Mace said that. And I got to say, tomorrow the Titans will have an opportunity to talk to their fans. Tomorrow is the day that Titan fans will be listening to their team, which is why it was so odd early in the day that most of us thought, Chad Brinker was kind of ducking accountability when it came out that Brinker would have an availability at 11, but no audio, no video, just quotes, and that's it that would come out that would end up in paper or whatever, and then Borgonzi would have a real press conference with audio, with video, etc. at 11 o'clock. And I couldn't believe it, because I understand the owner not wanting to get up there and talk. She doesn't have to. She's an owner. If owners don't want to talk, owners don't have to talk. And the league's never going to change that. But not the president of football operations. That guy needs to talk to the fans. Well, now Chad Brinker's going to have 3 availabilities tomorrow. He's going to do a radio interview where I'm sure they'll ask him about his favorite music in the morning. And then he'll have, the 10 o'clock, which, again, there won't be audio and video of. But then apparently, I think Brinker will be part of the Borgonzi press conference, and he will be asked questions tomorrow as well at the 11 o'clock press conference. Here's what the Titans have to make sure happens tomorrow. This is the single most important thing. And I know if you're listening over there, I want you to say right now, I know Jared Stillman pisses us off, but this is a very important point. So I want you to hear this. Tomorrow, the fans should be excited about Mike Borgonzi. That's what the Titans' mission should be. That tomorrow at 2 o'clock, and I'm a Titan fan through and through. I love my football team. You know I love my football team. That at 2 o'clock, I'm excited about Mike Borgonzi. That at 11:30, 11:45, when that press conference is over, Titan fans are excited about Mike Borgonzi. And that there is no ambiguity as to who is in charge and who is making decisions and who's really got their fingerprints on the team and everything else. I got excited when I saw Albert Breer put out there at Sports Illustrated yesterday that Chad Brinker will be the president of football operations, but that Mike Borgonzi will have final say on the roster. I got excited because Albert Breer, very well-respected reporter, and I am okay with the idea of Mike Borgonzi picking the players. But then Paul Kaharski put out a story this afternoon at paulkaharski.com saying, quote, despite a report to the contrary, the Titans have not drifted from their plan for Chad Brinker to have final authority on all football matters as the team moves forward. So again, yesterday we were told Borgonzi was going to be in charge of the roster. Yay! Today we're being told Borgonzi will not be in charge of the roster. Boo! Now, I can't tell you what they're going to say tomorrow. That's for them. But tomorrow at 2 o'clock, I don't want to have any ambiguity. I don't want to have any confusion as to who is making the first overall pick this spring. Is it Borgonzi or is it Brinker? I want to know the answer. And when it comes to the two of them, I hope that it is Borgonzi. Because I don't know what on Chad Brinker's resume would say that he's qualified to make this first overall pick. But what I don't like is I don't like we'll tell you this on Monday, but then we'll tell you that on Tuesday. Again, all this other stuff has been, a lot of gossip, a lot of drama, a lot of anonymous sourcing, a lot of tomorrow, you can set the record straight. Because people will be listening tomorrow at 11 o'clock. I guess people will be on Twitter seeing what comes out at 10 o'clock. But again, Brinker will be on the record, on camera, with audio, according to what I've been told, at 11 o'clock tomorrow. Well, I think that's pretty fascinating. And we'll see if they can come out of this with people looking at them like a serious organization. It's a big day tomorrow. And I'm not even talking about selling tickets, because the Titans are going to sell tickets for a new stadium. They just are. But more so, just this idea that we can have some confidence in where the football team is going. And not, again, like what Derek said, with this perception of infighting and backstabbing and gossip and drama and everything else that has followed this team. I also have to say, and again, I want this to be I want to be totally clear. I believe the reason why there's clarification about all the availability Chad Brinker's going to have is because of the pushback that the Titans received when they announced at noon or whatever time it was that Brinker's availability was not going to be on camera, was not going to be recorded for audio, and the pushback they heard that they said, okay, all right, we need to make sure that we can get Brinker on audio at 11 o'clock, and let's put Brinker, in a safe space. Let's whatever. So I do think there's something to that. I do not think the PR staffs of the Titans, I do not think that they're bad. I'm just going to say that right now. I want this to be clear. I think this was a Brinker thing. And Brinker is in charge of the PR department. That is under his purview of the football operation. And I think Brinker went to the people that work for him. And Brinker originally did not want to be, this is just my opinion. I am speculating here. But I think that Chad Brinker, thought, hey, this way they don't play the audio of me talking about why we fired Rand and the questions about the backstabbing and the backbiting and all the other stuff. This way they'll only hear the stuff about Borgonzi. And I think the pushback has led Brinker to say, okay, now I'll do the 11 o'clock availability too. That's just my opinion. But again, it does seem like Brinker probably wasn't ready, or the Titans weren't ready for the pushback they were going to get, and rightfully so, for the media to push back. And I saw some people that were texting in saying the media should boycott. I'm like, if you don't want to be on camera, the idea of people not coming to ask you questions is probably what you want. We can't have that. Have to ask the questions. 615-737-1025, and our phone line is driven by WilsonCountyHunter.com. Jack says, will you be asking questions? Yes, I will be asking questions. And let me say this. I'm sure I'm not the most popular person over there right now. But we do all want the same thing, I think. We all want the Titans to be good. I want the Titans to be good. Now, the way that I think they have to go about it might be different than the way they think. But again, this is a press conference. This is not a Jared Stillman lays out his opinions conference. That's what this show is. But yes, I will be asking questions. Because I'm not going to just pretend that Chad Brinker didn't pump Rand Carthon's tires and tell us that they were like long-lost brothers last year, only for Rand to be out of a job and Chad to be hiring his replacement, or Chad being his replacement, or at that point in time, Chad already was his replacement. Kevin says, I cannot believe that they were having a press conference that me as a fan from the very jump cannot be privy to. That is ridiculous. I believe it may be my final straw with them. But now I'm hearing that there is audio. Again, my understanding is Chad Brinker's availability at 10 a.m. will not be streamed, recorded audio, video, etc. It'll just be, quotes, which we will get. But again, it's just quotes. It's not the same as actually being, again, Vengen and Derek were talking about this today, about the definition of being on the record. On the record is we can attribute you saying this. So when a source says, but you don't say who it is, that's not off the record, but that's what they would call on background, more so than, anonymous sourcing, etc. When you're on the record, it's Jared Stillman said. So this is on the record, but it's not on video. It's not on audio. And in 2025, fans expect to see the leaders of their teams be on audio and be on video. Curtis says, please do not say what happened to Rand. I mean, again, I'm not going to say what my questions are going to be ahead of time. I don't want to give them time to prepare. But if you listen to the show, I think you have a pretty good idea. I mean, my big issue with this is, again, what has Chad Brinker ever done to deserve this level of responsibility of an NFL team, to where he could be a part of the group last year, then make all these bad moves, fire the general manager who he was brought in by, who he was working together with, and not face any consequences? That's what I have a hard time with. Kevin says, who cares if you're popular? Go ask the questions we want. Again, I'll ask the questions that I think not only I want to know, but I think you guys want to know too. I don't care about being popular. As far as I was actually talking to my Canadian family about this when we were at the Preds game, because they had some celebrities. It was Keith Urban night the other night at the game, and they had him on the Jumbotron, and, they're waving out there, and there was some singer-songwriter they introduced, and I'm sure she's a big deal. Like, I'm sure my girlfriend in the music industry probably knows exactly who this singer-songwriter was. But they put up a singer-songwriter on the Jumbotron, and she waved to the crowd, and I'm like, who is that? Like, who is that? Who's that person? I've never heard of that person. But again, we were talking about the whole, being recognized on the Jumbotron, and I told him the story about the time that I got introduced at the Preds game, and the fans booed. And I was sitting there waving my hand in the air when they were like, please welcome from Jared to the GM, Jared Stillman and Floyd Reese. Boo! And me with my hand in the air, I'm thinking, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. And somebody said to me, one of our bosses at the time, she said, you like that though, right? I'm like, no, I don't like that. I understand it, but I don't like it. I mean, this is my hometown. I want the arena. Jared. Like it's the Jerry Springer show or something. I don't want, to be booed, but I understand it and I accept it. So again, I've always told people, when it comes to the Titans, all I want is for my football team to be good. When it comes to doing this show, you have two choices. When you work in sports media, I believe you have two choices. You can either tell the truth or you can be friends with people. You can be friends with general managers. You can be friends with coaches. You can be friends with players. You can be friends with agents. You can be friends with, or you can do your job. But it's really hard to do both. And I guess I just don't care about being people's friends when it comes to the football team, because I'd rather the Titans hate me and be good than the Titans love me and then be bad. And I hope the Titans understand that. I hope they understand how much I love this football. This is my football team. And I hope they understand that. One texter says, Jared, why does Charles Davis believe Chad is qualified and why not you? Well, I can't tell you why Charles Davis thinks Chad Brinker is qualified. I can't. But we did play like a 2-minute and 30-second cut this offseason of Charles Davis just pumping unfiltered sunshine when it came to the Titans on Sirius XM. And his co-host, Bruce Murray, after he was done, said, Well, you do have a relationship with them, which he does. And he's paid by the team. I do wonder, though, how Charles Davis has kind of reacted to all this, because I think he and Rand were pretty tight. So who knows? One texter says, or you can do your job with professionalism. Again, you got to tell me where I'm crossing the line of not being professional. You know, when I call somebody incompetent, that's not personal. Because, again, your competence, or what I'm assessing your competence of, is not your competence to be a father or a husband or a mother or whatever. I'm talking about your competence to do your job. To me, that's professional. One texter says, for the love of football, because this team is hidden behind a huge mountain of BS, let there be no punches pulled, just haymakers, because that's what we all want to know. Again, I got questions I want the answers to. What are they going to say? That's for them. I always say, if you don't ask the question, you'll never know. Sometimes people don't ask questions. They say, well, what was he going to say? And I always respond to that with, I can't tell another man what to say. If I'm asking somebody else for an explanation, they can explain it however they want. And then we interpret that as to, are they telling the truth? Is what they're saying really the right thing? Is it wrong? Those kind of things. 615-737-1025. Predators game day. Stillman & Company. What are you again?
It's hockey night in Smashville.
Walk over to Yossi. Here's one-timer, he scores!
Bringing you the keys to victory and the latest storylines surrounding the Nashville Predators. This is Predators Game Day, now on Stillman and Company.
Predators Game Day is presented by TJ Anderson of Benchmark Realty, online at tjandersonhomes.com. TJ Anderson, my realtor. Get your house seen, heard, and sold with TJ. Tonight, the Predators take on the San Jose Sharks, and they really, really stink. 14-29-6, good for 34 points. The Predators, 16-22-7, that's good for 39 points. My big fear is that the Predators are going to win too many games down the stretch and not get a great pick, but they are playing well as of late. They've won 3 in a row. Max has the pregame show. That's next. Stillman and Company. Titans press conferences tomorrow at 10 and 11. We'll see you all tomorrow, too.